and then killed the plane I shot at. That was funny.
Oh, wait for that to happen in War Thunder.
Can't
Speaking
wait
of
for
which,
yes, lore.
all right. Well, it is 5 o'clock now. All right. So for everyone that's watching now and everyone that is gonna watch in the future, I'm Steel. I am the host of the Salty Platoon. It's a play on Salty Splatoon from fucking SpongeBob. In case you've watched the first episode where I had the sound effect. Today we're gonna talk about some Gen 4 jets, and I have with me a couple of Discord members. I have Fresh Coma, which if you guys have coming from other Discords, especially Koalas, you've probably seen him there. Hi Jax, which is a friend of mine. Roman, another friend. And my boy Creamy, who is actually an Air Force intel analyst. So, yeah. Creamy, you going to say the line? You going to plug?
Oh. My views do not represent the United States government or the DoD or the United States Air Force.
But the video is definitely sponsored by the U.S. Air Force.
This is sponsored by the U.S. Air Force. So, guys, if y'all are having a bad day and you're like fucking living on the streets, go to your nearest Air Force recruiter. They'll hook you up. You'll be a mechanic if you're like Air Force has a lot of great job opportunities.
Now he's actually shamelessly plugging.
You gotta play like the really what do you call it, music, like the music's supposed to give you that feeling of pride and hope.
What is it, the Marines? Army Strong?
Yeah,
the
Army Strong.
Imagine Army Strong,
Proud,
but like
the Marines.
Yeah, I was thinking of that one.
All day.
The few, the proud, the Marines. I'm gonna answer
The few,
a real
the
quick
proud,
question.
the airmen.
Real quick from chat. Where do I work? The answer to that would be I work at the Buffalo Airport, de-icing planes, and it sucks balls because I want the winter to end. I mean, it's pretty nice today. It's raining, but it's warm. Tomorrow it's supposed to freezing rain, so they asked me to come in the morning, and I was kind of hoping to have both of my days off in a row, but I figured I actually had some shit kind of last minute planned for Saturday. So I figured him being happy that I would want to work tomorrow is going to help me work out some shit with Saturday with getting out of work early. So that's how it is. That's how it be. Absolutely fucking tired. But I'm going to do this anyways because of time zones. And that's about it for that. Also, I'm not doing the VTuber thing. Every time Aeroflip wants to do the VTuber thing.
VTuber thing?
Yeah, the SteelX come VTuber.
No.
Steelix saucy pants.
I'm a bust. Yeah.
Yeah, you tell him, Roman.
Yeah, so
I did nothing.
I hope OBS picks up my audio properly. I should be plenty loud to hear. I don't know. I hate
Plenty
audio.
loud.
Speaking of audio, real quick, again, before we get into this, Gaijin is testing on the work in progress client new sound environment design, which I have no faith in, but
It better not be Rainbow Six Siege.
yeah.
While your ears blasted?
Apparently, like, you can actually hear engines by you now. But anyways, so today we're going to talk about Generation 4 aircraft and War Thunder, as I'm sure many of you, if not all of you watching, have seen. That Gaijin did an interview with, was it game magazine? Was it literally called Game Magazine?
Game Magazine.
I can look it up.
I totally forget the name of the company that did it.
Having a podcast and being unprepared.
Shut up.
It's impromptu, bitch. All right.
I'm just capping.
You know what else isn't prepared? The Air Force with the F-35. Bam, got him.
The Air Force has not lost a single F-35, by the way.
To combat, yeah.
It was through Key Arrow.
When you have to hold
Arrow?
the pilot's hand, so you only
Key
put
Arrow,
10
yes.
buttons in the cockpit.
Yeah, so the Kita Air article, they basically, I mean, if you're living under a rock and like don't understand how Gaijin does things, then you kind of should have seen it coming. But they basically did confirm they were going to work on Generation 4 aircraft this year. However, I'm going to be on the hot take side of this. I don't think it's happening this upcoming patch. I think it's pretty stupid if they are. They might. But they were like, you know, you saw the Instagram guy or Twitter guy or whatever. He was like joking like there's no dev blogs because they're like working hard on extra shit. They're just fucking with us. But yeah, I don't think they're coming like in the beginning of the year. But if they are, we'll get into that in a bit. But I would see them coming in probably, I don't know, middle of the year maybe, or maybe sometime after summer. Probably just gonna set up the game. But I've seen some things online. I'm sure all of you guys here in chat right now have probably seen it as well, on whether it's Discords or forums or stuff, YouTube comments. But I've seen some people that are like kind of like going with like certain debates and shit. And well, I think that there's some things to be discussing about Gen 4 jets in particular, because obviously we're talking about a generation of aircraft that are basically a step up in terms of both performance and weaponry. And we've kind of got a taste with that with some things like the Viggen especially, or the MiG-23 MLD. But other than that, like, if we're going to talk about Generation 4 aircraft in War Thunder right now, obviously we would have to go in the context of how Gaijin behaves with balancing as well, and with battle ratings and stuff like that. And from my like CC perspective, from what I've seen of some internal discourse between CCs and SMIN, who is basically our main contact with Gaijin, I would just go ahead and say that Generation 4 jets are obviously going to be implemented, but I don't think that they're going to be implemented with Fox 3s. So at this point in time, I kind of want to get some of your guys' opinions on it in VC right now, and then maybe we can look at chat. I don't know if you guys are looking at chat as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like we'll see Generation 4 aircraft with current weapon systems. I'm just going off of what I know from the weapon payloads from DCS. I literally all of my information, just my actually disclaimer, this is all opinion and conjecture. I'm not Koala, so I don't actually go and like research stuff very well. This is totally impromptu, but yeah. Anyways,
leave that to me.
Whichever one of you wants to go first. I'm assuming Coma might have a pretty good idea, because I know Coma, you like to dabble with some stuff, or even Creamy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say like modern for like Gen 4, like the Gen 4 plus. Like that's not going to be for like modern like missiles. That's going to be definitely out the realm of possibility, just because of classifications on like all the manufacturers of those.
Well, one thing I would actually ask you is, if you can answer this, whether you have the knowledge or not, or it's classified or not, is like the original AIM-120 like declassified, or Gaijin could implement it in some way, shape, or form, and like get some realm of proper performance, or is it just as classified as like the AIM-120 C5?
It just depends. Like for your 120Ds, like it's just pretty much like your current and service stuff. That's gonna be like kind of hard for you to get information on, just because it's like currently operated on like the Navy and Air Force. But I don't know. Personally, the Air Force does not do a whole like blue, like looking into blue on blue guys. We're mostly like in the adversaries.
So you mean like, what do you mean like by that? You mean like, I'm talking from like a Gaijin perspective, the U.S. military wanting to give them information. Like, do you know that
a Challenger 2 incident, or is it?
In my personal opinion, it would be a risk to give early like AIM-120 information out, just because that would give them the ability for like the Russian military to like intervene with like Gaijin and possibly collect that information. But their intelligence community probably understands our capabilities just as good as we know theirs. But for it really just depends on the United States government and the DoD a whole lot.
Because I'm trying to think like with the Challenger 2 shit, like actually thinking about it, we haven't had anything with air in that realm.
That's because with us, that's honestly, like, I think they're fucking retarded for what they did, for just blatantly leaking, like, potentially secret or top secret information, and just, like, fucking ruining the whole purpose of, like, you know, all their composite materials on their tanks and special tactics or training, stuff like that.
So I guess like with me, so this one thing I wanted, it's kind of like on the top of my mind right now, actually, was this conversation I saw in a YouTube comment section where people were talking about Gen 4 jets with like Fox 3s and shit like that, and how like obviously they wouldn't add them, so like they'd still be using Sparrows and shit. But it's like, I mean, the F4J is using the AIM 7F. I'm pretty sure the F15 was using the AIM 7F as well. And probably the AIM 7M, which I mean I don't actually know the difference between the F and the M, and then I think there's what is it, the M2 whatever. I know that's kind of buggy on the Tomcat and DCS, so I, from like an actual somewhat performance perspective, I can't even really answer that. But yeah, so like even without Fox 3s, like you got to think about it this way, like So the other day actually in a custom battle, I was 1v1ing a guy in a Viggen, and I was in the MiG-23M, and I have played the MLD with a test drive, and the MLD's performance over the M is definitely like a game changer for dealing with something like the Viggen. And it's like, even though the Viggen is running around with Sparrows and AIM-9Js, like performance-wise, it still gave the MiG-23M a run for its money. Now I know this is a 1v1 in like a custom battle, and not really, it wasn't really like, it was one of my custom missions, so it wasn't on equal footing either way. But it's like, even if you only give an F-15A, like what, you would give it AIM-9Js and AIM-7Fs? Or
No,
AIM-9Ps.
you'd be looking at all aspect AIM-9s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get like Ls, you get P4 maybe, because I mean Ps are normally exported, but
Yeah. So you're looking at the Ls or Ms.
yeah.
And then for your
For the upgraded missile,
PVR
I mean,
missiles.
yeah, maybe.
We'd likely see like P4 or something on earlier planes, like maybe the F5, and then we'd jump to maybe Ls on different planes like the Phantom, and we'd go to Ls on those planes, and then we'd see later Sparrows as well as the better performance of obviously the F-15.
Yeah, especially since the fact that if you look across all aircraft from different nations, the main nations that are really going to be getting aircraft that are like up to date would be America, Russia, France, Italy, Britain, and Germany. Because China, I know a lot of their stuff is still heavily classified. You can't even get anything in there. Russia, some of the older Fulcrum designs are not even in service anymore, so you can kind of, I think, get some information on them. I could be wrong on that. But I know Israel gets the F-16s and they operate F-15s and F-16s still. And then Sweden operates the Gripen. So I mean, if you think about it, all those aircraft coming into War Thunder, not all at once, but in different patches, would be very, very nice to see.
We'd likely see a JA-37. Which one do we have in the game? The D.
We have the JA-37C Jagdvigen.
Yeah, so we'll likely see the JA-37D, I think, if I'm wrong. That's the next variant.
Yeah,
and then the AJS, which is the 80s version of the AJ, which is more or less just a couple of internal upgrades and like 2 or 3 weapon upgrades.
In the grand scheme of things, I've been ranting about this for a while, but the only difference, the only real reason, like, or basically the TLDR of them adding in the AJS is you're going to have grind 800,000 RP for 4 Mavericks. And then if Gaijin were to ever venture naval far enough along, maybe you would get anti-ship missiles, or they can even develop anti-ship missiles and you just use them in normal ARB matches against surface ships, which maybe at some point they'll start replacing with better models, who knows.
The only real point to the AJS would be like 4 Mavericks, the Mjolnirs, which are INS guided glide bombs. But they're also cluster munitions, so Gaijin hasn't added a single cluster munition, although there is World War II cluster munitions, but that's another topic. And then it would also carry 4 air-to-air missiles, which would include the AIM-9L, so...
Yeah, but even then, so like what I'm saying is like, even if we did get like the most basic missiles, like if Gaijin pulled some shit, with putting like AIM-9Js as like the stock missile on the F-15, I'm like, performance-wise, like, think about it this way. We've seen what Gaijin did with the MLD. They added that thing. the MLD could be added with first generation Gen 4s, and like it would like be fine. In terms of like performance, like the MLD will probably give the F-15 like an actual like threat versus like the MiG-23M. You're just gonna mop the floor with MiG-23Ms. You're gonna mop the floor with MiG-21 Bisses. God forbid you still see them. I mean, I know it's kind of like a meme, but it is serious. Like I know that in real life we had better training and superior technology for quite a long time, but the F-15's kill record is like, I mean, it wasn't just America too. Like most of that kill record, plus Desert Storm obviously, but like most of that kill record was from like Israel as well.
Yeah.
When they got a hold of F-15s. So it's like the F-15, I honestly even the A with bare minimum ordnance still performance-wise is like miles ahead of anything, pretty much everything currently at 11.7, because we're at 11.7 now, right? It's not 11.3 anymore.
No,
it
it's
is 11.3. Okay, well then yeah. So yeah, at anything at 11.3, and like even if Gaijin did and they went ahead and added in 12.3 or something, like there's still going to be 11.3s. That whole like power creep thing is like there's like bullshit power creep, but then there's just kind of like real life historical like shit just got better. Like jet technology and weaponry advanced a shit ton within the Cold War. Like post World War II, like the jet age is just like it felt like every 5 to 10 years there was something revolutionary that absolutely mopped the floor with everything. And that's pretty much every time I've watched like a history documentary on anything, that's kind of like the idea that I've got, is that it was just like, even if they do try to hype up obviously shit for opinion or propaganda perspective, you know, it's like when the MiG-25 came out, America was like, oh shit. You know, not even, and that's what I'm saying. That is like for an example, not even from like an American or like NATO perspective. There was shit that the Russians developed which NATO was like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah.
So, and there was someone, I saw something earlier. I was going to connect to that last point. Was thinking, because we were talking about that first patch or whatever. Definitely, Gaijin is going to have to, I would assume from a player perspective. I don't know what they've got internally in this aspect, but they definitely have to pad out rank 6, like late 6 and 7 before they start adding Gen 4s. In terms of like RP changes, other economic changes with repair costs, even though we just had an econ update.
We had a pretty good repair cost update.
Yeah, actually for one time, yeah, it's pretty good. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, we're gonna get to the point where we're grinding 500,000 RP for something. It's just going to take just a ridiculous amount of time, and then people are like, oh, it might be good. But it's like, keep in mind, there's going to be the guys that have the GE saved up, or the people that just, they grind quicker than others, that are going to be flying in these new planes, and they're going to be slapping people that are trying to grind. You know, so it's like definitely like a padding out thing. That
imagine rolling out in your MiG-29A and there's a Tomcat across the map who's fired on you before you can even unlock your R-27s.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I can see if the F-15A gets added, I can see them adding AIM-7Ms because as like a thing, but yeah, I'd say start off with AIM-7F first, because the M is essentially, I have a page up right now. It says right here, it's basically got the same engine as the AIM-7F, but it has the monopause secret that gives it look-down, shoot-down capability. So, I mean, if in a sense that they do come to the game and that is possible, we're dealing with some very high generation missiles on early like Gen 4 aircraft, but they didn't. But I say start off with AIM-7Fs first, because even though the F4J is the only aircraft in the game that currently has them, something more modern with the same missiles would be better, because the AIM-7M was made in 1982. It's not like you're thinking of like you putting like a freaking AIM-120D on an F-15 and throwing it into the game.
yeah, we've already got 80s planes.
Well, there was a comment I saw earlier from Aeroflip in the chat, said something about it also depends on the radar, otherwise those Fox 1s are going to become dead weight.
Yeah, they are going to become dead weight.
Which is definitely true too. I mean, with Paul Stamber's and stuff.
It's a true opinion, But you also got to remember the F-15A has a radar that's better than almost basically anything in the game.
Yeah, because it's the
Probably anything in the game.
first
Well, actually,
what is that acronym?
it's
AESA radar.
AESA
AESA?
radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actively electronically scanned array.
Yeah, the only other thing with, you know, a
Slotbacks.
similarly capable radar would be the EJ Kai with the F-16 radar, APG-66.
I actually wonder how they'll handle TWS. It kind of exists already, in some like weird way. If anyone of you had the J32B, you know what I'm talking about. Because when you go into the acquire mode, it has a scan mode. Although I've
That's just
never
because
really.
it has 2 radars.
Yeah, so like
Same
it
thing
still
with
scans.
the F3D Demon, or the F3 the Sky Knight. It's got an acquiring radar and a scanning radar.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily
those are the-
TWS, but
Yeah,
Isn't the
I know
Javelin
it's
like
not.
that?
Does Javelin
possibly.
have that? Really?
Yeah,
I've
let me
never
check.
played the Javelin.
I know the Javelin searches while it tries to lock.
Yeah, so like,
Uh,
because like the thing is like I'm thinking of it in like the way that Gaijin simplifies radars, because I will tell you guys this though. I don't know if it's public knowledge, although Smith has probably replied on the forums to it. There's a couple of things I'm gonna go into here real quick. Actually, I'll save the drop tanks thing for later because that was one of them. But when it comes to like the radar simplification, specifically also with RWRs as well, where we were kind of asking Smith like, what does Gaijin think about trying to model specific radar RWR sounds and stuff like that, and modeling specific systems in certain aircraft. And I don't know. I'm only thinking of like that same radar thing I'm talking about with the J32 and stuff. If they basically would try to model that for the F-15, just like the same exact like what we're used to now with the radar image, I guess you could say, or display in game, and then just kind of make it actually properly ping targets or being able to select multiple targets. Because I'm sure Coma will definitely know, but from DCS, it's like when you're in TWS mode and like you're tracking multiple shit, like you have to actually move your cursor around. But currently in War Thunder, you have to press a key that changes the radar target.
yeah.
So like, on top of the meme of already having a shit ton of keybinds, we have to bind even more. Like, they would really have to change radically how their radar stuff works, the keybinds and the whole functionality of it, to even get to that point, which is another reason why I think they probably won't even add Fox 3s. Or if they do, you're going to be using them against single targets, and TWS is probably something we won't really be dealing with for a while.
That's
Either
the
that
one
or
thing.
it'll be, yeah.
Is with multiple, like with modern radars, like AESAs, they're meant for tracking like multiple targets at once. It's like that's the
Yeah.
Like
And the
another
only
thing-
real solution to add TWS would be just making it a single target track sort of mode, but still scanning, and like you just can't lock multiple targets. Everything else would work normally the same.
Which would, funny
what it
enough, would actually kind of nerf the Tomcat.
Yeah.
Directly, because that's definitely something that is so good to utilize in DCS, is just being able to fire off 4 Phoenix missiles at different targets. But another thing, like especially with this, and this was kind of my thing. I remember Coma, I think or not Coma, Creamy, I think you were there the other day. We were talking about shit in VC, just chilling. I was kind of bringing up how my biggest turnoff with War Thunder, like recently, has been I wouldn't say the de-inclination or anything, but just like the reluctancy to model things properly. Like, I kind of got turned off with the walleyes, like the whole guided munition shit, because of the rendering range. And then like I know all of you definitely noticed this. Remember how they had it where you could see dots with your radar?
Yeah,
And then when you turn
could
the radar off,
only
they
see
disappear.
dots within like 10 kilometers, and if you had no radar, they would disappear after that. Yeah.
Well, Smin said that Gaijin said that was actually unintentional. That was never intended to be a thing, even though that actually improved the gameplay of jet battles like tenfold, because it makes sense, right? In the way that they implement the way that War Thunder ARB actually works, it kind of makes sense. It's like, obviously if your radar can pick them up, in a way you'd want to be able to see the dots as almost like an extended range. Now I get that kind of defeats the purpose of it being called beyond visual range, obviously, but for in terms of gameplay implementation and awareness, that actually made jet battles a lot more tolerable. And then again, like I said, the thing with walleyes and targeting pods and shit, and how they don't render ground properly, it's like been a big turnoff for me. So I think that thing with the radar being able to display enemies dots from really, really far away needs to actually come back as an intentional feature, considering, I mean, one, map size currently and awareness, and everyone knows how annoying it is to play jet battles and people just kind of appearing in and out of nowhere. And I think that's another limit that they have to implement a fix for Gen 4 aircraft. So honestly, like, I really think that we won't really be dealing with, again, I know I said this already, but I really don't think we'll be dealing with Fox 3s until towards the end of the year. Because, I mean, you guys definitely all agree with me on this, is that the engine just is so... I know what I said in my Cash Cow video over a year ago about, like, the engine and shit, and I still stand by some of that. Gaijin, just whether it's like a reluctancy or an actual engine limitation, even though they say, oh, we have limitless possibilities. Well, you haven't really fucking shown us that possibility. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my biggest gripe, honestly, with Gen 4 aircraft. With Foxes.
It's not only just the fact that the engine and all that have issues. Like, there's already issues in the game that has nothing to do with the engine, and they've just refused to fix. Like, has anybody noticed the MLD has this magical TWS, like, sort of... It's not even TWS. It's just the radar does not physically give you emissions in MTI or LD mode on the MLD.
You saying as the person
it does not ping you at all. Yeah.
Really? I did not know that.
No, because I've tested it multiple times. The MLD does not give any radar emissions in those two modes, which isn't physically possible when talking about guiding Fox 1s because of the type of mode that you need to fire those types of missiles. And then the fact that it breaks the game.
Yeah, that's really stupid. I never even knew that was a thing. I mean, I always use IRST anyways because I use the 24T. But yeah, that's actually really stupid as well. And there's another thing too.
I've gotten killed by R24Rs when they've when I die, I see in the spectator, and then they're carrying R24Rs, which obviously can't be guided with IRST. So
yeah, let me go back to my thing. Where was it? Oh, so a month ago I posted that video. Generation 4 aircraft are coming. We need this, and it was actually before they even announced it because I just kind of figured. And I think a lot of people probably didn't really believe that video or like didn't take it seriously because Gaijin themselves hadn't confirmed Gen 4 aircraft at that point in time a month ago. But like, I kind of had a feeling that it was happening anyways. 11,000 people saw that video, and again, like, still here. They still haven't mentioned anything about reworking RWRs. So, we need that launch warning. I don't care if they put a fucking diamond on the missile when you launch it. You still need that audible launch warning. Flying is so much more about like your multiple senses than just straight up eyesight or just straight up hearing. And that's something that's really gonna the game's really gonna struggle with, I guess to say, is they don't fix that shit. And like, I know Gaijin really doesn't always like throwing away all their secrets at once, but from my perspective, I really haven't seen anything indicating that. As a matter of fact, I've seen the opposite. There's shit that I can't show publicly because it's not really a legit legal NDA, I guess. I will tell you all this. It's not really like a legit, like, I haven't signed anything, but we really aren't supposed to like leak photos or any like physical evidence of shit. I can only say it's hearsay, which will make me sound like a fucking conspiracy theorist if people don't believe it. But I'm telling you, like, some of the shit when I'm saying like, oh, this was this in like closed circles, I'm not lying. I know doesn't sound very convincing, but I mean, if you guys have seen Gaijin's reactions of handling things or how they really act on the forums and stuff, some of you will kind of take it somewhat seriously, you know. But yeah, that's what when it comes to sensors and stuff. I think we probably don't even have to dwell on that much anymore, unless there's something that any of you want to add.
Well, I mean, they've made the effort to model multiple different RWRs with like the what is it, the ARL 44 and 66 and all that with like the Phantoms, and then the SBO 15 on the MLD and the 27 and the 22. But like, as well as the I forget the name, but the one on the MiG 21, which is also in the Hinds and other Russian aircraft like the Su 7. But the fact that they're all the same, and before, you know, like 3 updates or 4 updates ago, you like, I mean small updates by the way, you wouldn't even be able to hear the RWR going off because of the battle just being louder than anything in your cockpit. It's just like they're still focused in this Korean War jet mindset where everybody's dogfighting when they're adding, you know, 40, 50 kilometer missiles.
There's actually like a pretty good segue I can run off to right now, because the next thing I want to touch up on was maps, and then that other thing I was talking about with fuel tanks. So obviously I know we have some of the EC maps with their some of their EC mechanics obviously in normal ARB, and I'm all for it, honestly. Like I fucking love, like, the one day it's the first time ever. It was during when I was flying my test flight or my test drive I got for my monthly shit with the MLD, and it was the first time I had actually seen Vietnam, and being able to like fly, troll around with your radar a little bit and kind of see like where people are, go off in a certain direction, and actually have a dogfight, like a 2-on-2, and not a fucking 7-on-7 with some asshole coming in along the water line who's not spotted because the spotting system's having a stroke. Like, it was actually pretty damn fun. I know there's people that don't like that, and like I understand, but I mean, if you're expecting to have the old Korea era like dogfights, you know, like people used to, that's just not happening. Like, that's not how these planes fight. That's not how that happens. They have standoff weaponry where they engage at longer ranges. They have missiles that eventually we will definitely see these as well, which I want to talk about very much later. But shit like the AIM-9X and the R-73, you know, you get close and you fuck up, you're going to die, right? And then people, like, I've already seen this from content creators and players alike, where people are complaining about a mistake that they made that they don't understand. It's like, it might seem like a small mistake and it got them killed, but it's like, that's how, like, in real life, pilots will die. You make some stupid small mistake where you roll the wrong way after the merge and shit like that, you're going to die. It's straight up, you know. Right now, we don't really have to worry too much about that, considering it's just a furball. But I feel like it's more easy to realize your mistakes when you're fighting spread out with small little skirmishes versus just, oh, there's 5 people on your ass and you've run out of energy. There's nothing you can do. That's not necessarily you making a mistake. That's just you having to deal with 5 different targets at once, and aircraft are not designed to handle 5 different targets at once in a dogfight. You know, that's just not how that happens. There's always buddying, you know, with wingman and shit like that. That happens in real dogfights, but I think War Thunder actually has dogfights that are a little bit tighter turning because pilots are pulling fucking 5 more G's than they're supposed to, that that the human can withstand and shit like that. There's definitely, like, I know, again, I'm comparing DCS to War Thunder here, but you get an idea for, like, what actually entails a dogfight in DCS versus how War Thunder kind of gets away with some oversimplifications. And I think the like poor designing of mechanics and stuff, or poor balancing, or certain gameplay changes, you know, and shit, or aspects, sorry, not changes, of having massive furballs really exacerbates those problems. But yeah, so with map design, obviously, I prefer that, and I know I kind of just had the tangent about it, but I'm kind of going into this like one more time. So I've seen people, content creators and players alike, complain about wanting to have Korea era dogfights And then when you're like, so go play career era jets, and then they're just like, no, because they suck, because they're not top tier anymore. It's like, yeah, well, no shit, they're not top tier anymore. And I know that there's some mixed matchmaking. You know, I don't enjoy playing a F-86 Saber and fighting a MiG-21, which is why I think it's a whole nother issue though. But why I think there needs to be like actual hard caps on battle rating matchmaking for rank late 5 and then 6 and 7. Obviously, this all depends on battle ratings, but you know, it's just like you got to accept at this point in time in the game state that if you're going to be playing top tier jets, you're gonna have to like understand that a lot of people are not going to want to play Malta and an F-15. Like that's not fucking happening. You know, even in more of a dogfight centered jet, because like I said, like so hypothetically, right? Like right now we're talking about them implementing shit like the F-15, maybe the F-14A, the MiG-29, stuff like that, with like basic missiles, right? Well, that's all great and dandy, but throw R-73s and like AIM-9Xs and shit into the mix, and you stick it on Malta, matches are going to literally last not even 5 minutes, and you're 99.9% of the time just going to die because of the spotting system. Like, that's definitely been a thing that I'm sure all of us can agree has been a thing for a long, long time, and it definitely gets stale. You know, there's some people that want, I feel like they want War Thunder to be like Call of Duty, just with aircraft, and it's like, that's not really what's supposed to be. I feel like War Thunder is really supposed to be, and Gaijin is trying to make it more like a Battlefield, where obviously Battlefield is still, you could consider in some aspects arcadey, but Battlefield has some more like team-based elements that Call of Duty really doesn't have, definitely in terms of scale. So if you want to compare it that way, it's just like we can't be having these discussions and expecting it to be like Call of Duty and this guy. So rant over, but you know, that's kind of like my headspace.
I mean, it makes sense. You have these people who are complaining about getting hit by sparrows and all these other BVR things, like the longer range maps and that. Yet they don't know simple, you know, like BVR tactics or anything. Like, they refuse to acknowledge what's being added into the game due to just general progression of time, and complaining about the pure fact that it's being an addition in the game. Like, you know, how many people in War Thunder know what a notch is? How many people know what chaff actually does? Like, you don't have to be an expert on these things, but just understanding the basics of flying. Like, everybody knows what, you know, like how to fight in prop planes. Everybody knows how to do this, how to do that, how to manage your energy. But now that there's a new level of combat, no one wants to learn it anymore. Like, it's not just, oh, I need to keep my speed up all the time. You need to know where to put your plane and how to, you know, deal with that. Not even just in a dogfight, just in general. If I'm going straight up the middle of the map and I don't have any sort of standoff weapon or something that'll push people out of in front of me, I'm going to get shot by another person with Fox 1s. That's just how it is. If I pose no threat to them, I'm just going to get swatted away. And no one understands that. And that's why you always see these people or these teams dying from, you know, MiG-23s and Phantoms and F-4Js, because they're head-oning 70s missiles. You can't be doing that anymore. That's not how it works. We're not 2019 AIM-9Bs F-100s, you know? Like,
yeah, that's
you
kinda
can't
what
have any of this new stuff without people knowing.
Yeah, that's a better way to phrase it. Definitely. That's definitely a better way to phrase it, because, like, yeah, like that whole 2019 headspace. Like, I remember, okay, I'm definitely calling people out here, and I'm not naming names, but there were people that were telling me that they think missiles should be used as a tool and tactic to bleed energy from people in order to get gun kills, which you can definitely do that as a thing, but like trying, like, this is like when Gaijin was adding in the AIM-9J and they were complaining about their performance, and I'm like, that's not where this game's going. Like, this isn't fucking World of Warplanes. Like, they're not going to artificially change stats of things that drastically just so you can get the satisfaction of a gun kill. That's not how that fucking works. Like, imagine in real life, right, going to Raytheon and being like, bro, make the AMRAM have a shit gimbal limit so I can just make him do a turn and bleed his energy so I can get a gun kill. That's just dumb, because it's like, okay, well, we put this missile into service because it can do X. And in Gaijin's terms, it would be, we put this missile into game because it can do X, and people want to see that happen. And then just sit there and cry that they got fucking AMRAM'd, and they couldn't get their gun kill. Like, that was like a legit thing that I was seeing from some content creators. And like, it's always great to disagree, but it was like, some level, it was just so like out of this world, like kind of stupid and pointless to complain about. And it's like, we got bigger issues than you wanting to use your AIM-9Bs as a method to get a gun kill. That's just dumb. Like, as your main weapon source to keep guns as a thing, it's like, so you want your main gun kill source in a Viggen to be or your main source of kills is the gun in the Viggen while you carry dogfight sparrows? Like, what? That's not how that works. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that is definitely like the better way to frame it, Coma. Is in that way.
It works both ways. You have those people that don't want to accept the meta, and then you have the people who are all about it, yet they know nothing about what they're talking about. They want their AIM-9Gs to, 9x someone 8 kilometers away, going through every single flare. Like people a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, I can't remember now, complaining about how sparrows weren't hitting every single shot. Like, if you legitimately look up the kill to miss ratio about the AIM-7E in Vietnam, it was around 25%. And every time I would play the Phantom, I'd get maybe one kill with a sparrow. It's the same thing. And I mean, even in the Yom Kippur War, it's the same thing. It's a 25% kill rate. The missiles are just not that good. You gotta play smart with them. It's a tool. It's like using a Mark 103 on a 109. Like, it shreds things. It's a very deadly thing you can use, but you have to know where to put it. You have to know how to use it and how to play with it for it to work for you. I can't just YOLO 7 sparrows, or I can't YOLO 4 sparrows at someone and expect all of them to hit it just because it's a sparrow and it on the stat card says it has a 50-kilometer range. Like, none of these missiles have hit their max ranges. Like, you have to know how to use these things. You can't just throw yourself into the meta expecting you to know immediately how to use it or for things to do things for you. There's skill in everything. It's just whether you decide to accept that there is or not.
Yeah, that's definitely probably like the core thing there is admitting / realizing that getting a missile kill sometimes is a lot simpler than just getting the heat lock and then firing away. Like Magic's, for instance, definitely the most brain dead missile to use in the game, next to the R24T. Like, hands down. Like, the Magic has some insane flare resistance even still. It just, and then like there was another thing too. It's like with dodging missiles, like people are like, oh, my flares just do fucking nothing, and it's like, well, you're running your afterburner and you're continuing a turn in the same direction as the Magic, and the flares that you are discharging are not even close to where the Seeker is actually going to pick up. It's like it's still looking at you from like a leading perspective, and like the fact that you haven't changed direction to try to put the flares between you and the missile is stupid. And I'm talking about like people complaining about not being able to dodge our 60s and AIM-9Js at the time. The Magic, again, is still an exception because the Magic is a very, very well made missile. So, and even with the flare changes, it is definitely like there's definitely a skill element. One thing like I always struggle with is Pulse Doppler, like look down, shoot down. I never really get kills with sparrows in that way. I've been murdered by an EJ Kai a couple times, but in my Viggen, I've never really been able to do anything like that, or on the F4J. So there is definitely some radar clunkiness or just lack of me not understanding, obviously. But yeah, to say that missiles require literally no skill is pretty dumb, considering that I know I'm bringing in real life here, and people like to go, well, this is a video game, not real life. Like, I get that, but this is a video game trying to model things in a more simplistic way to real life, not being full simulator and not being full World of Warplanes, obviously. But It's like the entire premise of modern air combat is that there is a skill in knowing how to maneuver yourself and position your enemy into a way where you can defeat their missiles and they can't defeat yours. That is a skill in and of itself. And that's part of the reason why I think furballs and why the smaller maps in War Thunder won't fit these aircraft is because it's just another furball. It is so brain dead boring to just spawn in, fly like up to like 10,000 feet or 5,000 meters, whatever it is, and then just fucking dive down on two people, get a missile kill, and the game's over. That's not interesting at all. That's just you just kind of slaving your brain away at like neuron activation. There's nothing else to the game. There's nothing entertaining about it other than having your neuron activation moment.
And I mean, to give people the benefit of the doubt, everything, I mean, I don't know how to put this, because everything in War Thunder is always changing. I mean, everything in real life is always changing as well, but it's not like I'm changing physics in real life, like things still work the same. In War Thunder, to give people credit, flare resistance and all that has been changed, so many times. The meta missiles, the meta planes, the play styles, all that. They've been changing for the past, 3 years that we've had missiles, but like, it's still the general same tactics. So it's not even just, haha, funny King Tiger player, going straight into the middle of the map, ignoring everybody, or, MiG-21 or Phantom pilots dogfighting MiG-21 sort of thing. But it's both Gaijin and the player that doesn't make Gen 4 work.
Or even
Like,
Gen
I
3
can't
work.
run around. Yeah, I can't run around with AIM-7Es, expect to get 20 kills when, one, my radar is being clunky, and two, I don't even know how to use them. Like,
That's why I think I really like the EC maps, is they offer a little bit of avenue. Now, I know it's obviously not straight up sim EC where you can constantly respawn. I really think that they should just, this is like not even on the Gen 4 topic, this is just general gameplay improvement. To reduce some of the staleness is just literally bringing back RBEC. Obviously, in the bigger maps, it would help with the top tier jets. But for longer duration games, like, I find no difference between people saying, it's like, well, most players that play War Thunder log on, guy just says like whatever a day, like average 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day. It's like, well, if people really like grinding something or they really want to play a certain nation, there is no difference between them hopping into an EC match and playing that for 3 hours than just constantly staring at a fucking queue screen for 4 hours, for the same amount of time.
mm-hmm.
Like, EC definitely offers like a continuous gameplay loop that I think is actually more engaging, and isn't as boring and gets rid of some of that shit. Like, if you're, 5 minutes of queue, this is, I'm just going with even numbers, but it's obviously a lot less. So, fuck it. We'll just try it anyways. So if you spend a minute or 2 minutes in queue and 3 minutes climbing, 3 to 4 or 5 minutes climbing, that's an upwards of at times 10 minutes of total before you get into combat just to die, right? Like, if we're talking props or jets, it's, mostly queue time maybe, and then a little bit shorter flight time. In EC, it's like, You can climb, and you can sometimes get the same amount of time to get to the engagement, but there might be multiple people in a dogfight. But if you die, you just go respawn. It takes 15 seconds to respawn. That whole queue time thing is like completely out of there. And I think that improves the gameplay loop of War Thunder and actually indirectly benefits higher tier jets, because if you stick somebody in an F-80 in an up tier in a game against a MiG-15 and you're playing on Korea, the MiG-15 is going to take off and he's going to be above the F-80 in no time at the typical spot that they always go, and then they're going to die. But if you're in an F-80, like on an actual EC map, and you have the chance to actually climb and gain some altitude and kind of be in equal footing because there's more just general airspace and distance between everybody, if it takes a minute longer, sure, but as long as you're on a more equal playing field or you have a more engaging dogfight, that's definitely more entertaining and more rewarding for the average player anyways. And like I said, that will in some way indirectly benefit later generations of jet fighters as well.
I mean, even the ECRB maps, the maps in just normal RB, like, I don't know how much more fun I've had just running around, actually being able to use, my full fuel tank, my missiles, and going to land. Like, I haven't landed in forever, unless it's an EC match, because the game either ends or I die. Like,
Yeah. And the other thing Robbie said too is that you can leave whenever you want, and you get your RP and SL right then and there when you leave. This is why I really think EC is just such a better mode.
Sorry to
the
butt
better
in
gameplay
here,
loop.
but it literally just happened again. I just got hit with an R24R and got no radar ping.
Nice.
Just to tie it all back to Gym 4, it would actually be very suiting for, since they're meant for like longer engagement distances with more modern, quote unquote, modern, like BVR and IR missiles. It would be more suiting to have like EC maps or like an RBEC mode brought back in the like this new upcoming update for like Gym 4 aircraft.
You mean like a map specifically for it that they throw into the EC, or just bringing back EC in general?
No, just bringing bigger maps in general for newer aircraft, because it's like I don't want to fight on like shitty Moscow in 1946 or whatever that piece of shit map is, but I'd rather like play like some historical like or
It's not
something
historical.
like
So this is the wrong terminology. I think people really
that. But
need to
like
start using
I
believable.
say
as the
historical
word.
used like loosely, but like where modern jet combat was fought in that area, and then they can just do like with the Golan Heights.
What
or
I'm
like
saying is
whatever map.
use the word believable,
Yeah,
because
that's what I mean.
historical implies being 1-to-1 to real life. Believable implies you're not just on Malta in a fucking F-16.
Yeah,
Even
even though that'd be fun.
Yeah, to some people, yeah. So like this is
Because
the other thing
my
too.
9G capable fucking Viper.
Yeah. So like this, like another thing. Oh, you still have to wait for the battle to end. Oh, then that was an old thing with EC. But either way, like at least you're getting your shit at some point, right? You can just go and hop into another battle, but you leave no punishment. So I have to correct on that. I forgot that they changed how that worked. But the other thing I was saying, like an olive branch. One time, I will say this: Koala was having a discussion with a couple of other content creators in the Discord we're all in, the content creator Discord, which some people will know about, some people won't. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about when there's conversations I can't really leak like physically with like pics and shit. But Koala was on one side, about like bigger maps and more realistic or believable mechanics, let's say. And then there were other people that were kind of just saying like that's like really stupid and shit like that. It's like there's really no reason. Basically, like I think obviously there's always going to be two sides to everything. That's just how human beings work. There's no let me think about this for a second. There's no reason to make War Thunder one or the other. Like EC being as a mode doesn't have to immediately, like this is the problem. Some content creators on the other side of the argument were just assuming that like we would be replacing normal ARB. That doesn't have to happen. That literally doesn't have to happen at all. Or like talking about like tank modes. One time we were talking about tank modes, and I was bringing up how I think we should bring back some form of break, some sort of assault mode, and the person on the other side was assuming that would be. They're like, you got to have a mode that's better than the current one to replace it, and I was like, no one's talking about replacing a mode. We're just talking about adding it in to the rotation, right? So people that want to play normal ARB and get the normal ARB experience can still play ARB. Now I know when it comes to balancing, obviously Gaijin has to choose one or the other. So that might mess with battle ratings and shit. But eventually in EC that shit can all be worked out anyways because of map size and objectives and stuff like that, right? But there's no, like, the people that want to play on Malta and an F-15 don't have to suffer playing an EC and flying for like a couple extra minutes if that even is a thing, right? And someone that wants to play EC like me doesn't have to suffer sitting in a fucking queue, climbing for 2 minutes, and then getting blapped by someone who climbed higher than me because their performance is just simply better with the combat load, right? like that whole like dynamic doesn't. I don't have to play through it, and then people on the other end don't have to play through my dynamic, right? So that's just like honestly like why I think some people don't, or like the conversations we have don't go anywhere, or some people have disagreements that are really stupid. You don't have to replace one with the other. They can just be combined. And the whole thing with Gaijin saying, well, my queue times, that's just complete fucking bullshit, and we all know it because they in air quotes fixed the cancel button, and the cancel button is pretty much a guaranteed match now, like for any mode, almost all day long, right? So
Not
the whole
even
thing with
that,
queue times, it's just not real anymore. The game has so many players that and so much advertising now that they always have a consistent player base at peak times of the day for the higher percentage of their player base, right? Okay, maybe Australia might suffer because of the time zones and shit like that. Like I get that, right? I understand the accessibility for everybody, but for Gaijin's
you're
bottom
not
line,
American.
yeah, for Gaijin's bottom line and their most of their revenue where it comes from, it's actually really honestly the queue time thing is just such a non-issue, even from a player's perspective. I don't care what their fucking graphs tell them. From the average player's perspective, when people are telling them it's fine, I mean it's fine. There was a point in time where queue times genuinely were an issue, but Gaijin just started using that as an excuse. Like that is Gaijin's version of like, oh, I have COVID, I can't come into work today. Just like
Best
people are
excuse
just
ever.
yeah, like people are just starting to use it as an excuse. So yeah, with that, but the other thing I was going to get onto, Creamy, even though you did an excellent segue, by the way, that was perfect.
Oh, I know. It's almost as if I brief for a living. So it's kind of like I'm kind of mastering the art of
Sponsored by the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to bring up too, obviously with map size, is fuel tanks. So I'm sure if you guys have any shred of knowledge on modern jets, especially something like the F-16 or the MiG-29A, they absolutely
Not even modern jets.
yeah, or just just later generation jets in general. When it comes to having afterburners and having higher fuel consumption, they absolutely eat fuel. So and I wish Koala were here, but time zone wise, I'm pretty sure he's asleep. And I wish he could talk about this because this was his thing.
Yeah.
But is the thing with fuel tanks is we kind of raised the question to Smid about like, is Gaijin planning to do fuel tanks? He could totally have been lying, but his answer was pretty much, I'm paraphrasing here, but was pretty much no. They really don't care. I shouldn't say care, but like it's not really on their list of priorities. So like if they did add a MiG-29A or an F-16A, I mean, I know that the F-5E can carry a pretty small fuel load, and the F-5E doesn't exactly eat fuel like the Viggen. But like, I mean, if we're talking about even like an F-16A, I mean, be prepared to have a combat time that lasts like 3 minutes. In the grand scheme of things in War Thunder, even on like current like average size maps, and we're not even talking about like Vietnam, like the EC maps. I mean, just be prepared to either not use your afterburner and have a little bit more combat flight time and possibly put yourself at a disadvantage energy-wise or altitude-wise, or burn through all your fuel and dogfight for a minute and then have to run or run out of fuel.
Well, unique thing they could do is implement. You know how in like the World War modes they had that zone that would resupply you.
Yeah.
Imagine that, but they just say it's for.
The thing is, people would abuse that, Creamy.
Aerial refueling.
No, okay. So I've thought about all. Sorry to butt in, but I've thought about all these situations a lot in the past couple of years. I even made like a chart about rank 6 jets and later Gen 3s, and it actually came out to be pretty much true. But what I'm trying to say is I had this thought a couple of years ago about adding refueling vehicles, and it doesn't have to be a completely new like E2 or E3, or not E2, like a KC-130 or anything. You could literally add an A4 with drop tanks that goes, like 300 or so miles an hour, and just throw it somewhere on the friendly side of the map at, like 15,000 feet, let's say, and just force a player when he goes there to, like stay in the area for like 30 seconds, quote unquote hook up, and then, just sit there, refuel. He's vulnerable for a certain amount of time, make it a map objective, 5K to kill the refueling plane, whatever. But it doesn't have to be abusable at all. And I think that's the other thing, same thing with that whole like argument, is people are set in their ways. They don't think of the possibilities. Like, it
Well, I'm
doesn't
talking about the
anyway
zone
have to be
itself. Like if you're
abusable.
just flying like those zones that they had in World War mode, you just fly to it and then you jade out and then you respawn. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking about like actual like really like sleazy like mechanic abuse. If there was a thing where like your aircraft went into like an air refueling animation at like a refueler or something, that's different. That's something they could totally like design, and it does put you at a disadvantage. Yeah, but I'm just talking about like the game zone, the way that Gaijin designs shit like that. It's abusable. The other thing I was thinking of was like, I mean, if they don't implement fuel tanks, like, are you gonna give the MiG-29A its figurative fuel load with a fuel tank, so it has the performance of having a fuel tank on, but you can't dump that fuel and that weight of the tank? So they do shit like that, and then people are gonna be like, "Well, why is my MiG-29A not maneuvering like X?" Right? It's just it's dumb shit. It really is just dumb shit when it comes to stuff like that. So fuel tanks, I'm just telling you from what is coming from the mouthpiece of Gaijin that I have contact or interactions with, that I don't think Gaijin's going to be doing fuel tanks unless they figure out a way to implement it, or they're totally lying. That's another thing. But it's from the legit answer I've received. I think Koala might have seen it too. I think it was a direct reply to Koala. I'm not entirely sure. It's kind of like a fat no at the moment. So any discussion about fuel tanks is probably just honestly worthless at this point. Yeah, fuel dumping and shit like that. It's just at the end of the day, it's more keybinds. I get that people don't want War Thunder to go full DCS, but there are certain mechanics that either they're gonna have to skip out on that ruin gameplay in one way, or you add upon stuff and it ruins gameplay in another way, or it causes people to just be so overwhelmed. Which, even though Gaijin tries to simplify shit as much as possible, even though sometimes
we have one person in this chat that some of you probably know, since some of you are in this Discord, called Zero, and she makes a lot of War Thunder like user-made missions and models. And one thing that she actually personally said was, the way that Gaijin has designed the game, nothing's variable necessarily in a flight model. Like, you can't jettison things, you can't do this, you can't do that. And so adding fuel tanks that you can drop and all that is almost physically impossible in the game itself. Like, that's a coding thing too.
yeah.
And I mean, you could probably go and find a direct quote and have her better explain that, but
Even then, it's like, when Gaijin says, "Oh, people," I shouldn't say Gaijin because they haven't really said it directly, but at least from my recollection. But especially when I was talking about my cash cow video, whether they were content creators or players, saying that Gaijin can't rebuild the engine, or the game has more possibilities. It's Gaijin's engine; they can do whatever they want. It's like, not really,
not.
because if you want a good example, the game Oblivion Lost that was created by GSC Game World, that was the game that essentially allowed them to, it inspired them to make Stalker. The coding was so good and so complex in one way that it actually, for the time, was impossible. Which is, it might sound like it's a bit of a reverse, but it's like, there are limits to technology, there are limits to engines, there is limits to baseline coding from the ground up, of how the game was designed at one point, that they cannot do. And actually, let me go back to my cash cow video. I pinned a comment, and there's a term I'm thinking of that applies to this. Where is it? Was it this? Something called the software. So the guy said part of the problem I mentioned with the game engine is something that software engineers called, they call it scope creep, which essentially you program things with a set goal in mind, and then unless you make the code modular enough in the beginning, it becomes harder to add new things without problems arising. And said also, no matter how modular you make code, at some point you will run into scope creep. Think of it like building a car. You make the frame and put an engine into it, and then make the rest of the body. Well, if you want to add wings into the frame, obviously, blah blah blah. But it's like if your boss said add wings, you gotta do it, right? And that's kind of what Gaijin is in. That's kind of the Russian developer mindset. That is something that Wargaming definitely also does, with their game design. So yeah, the scope creep was the term I'm thinking of. And that's what we've run into with Gaijin. I don't care how many times people will say, but it's their engine. It's like, okay, they built this game. They built this game before it was called War Thunder. They built this game when I was fucking, 6 years old, 8 years old? When did Birds of Prey come out? Let me Google it.
Like 2009?
2 Birds of Prey.
2010?
2009. I was 9 years old when this game's actual building blocks were made. Okay? Literally 9 years old. It is 2022. All right? Think about it that way. This game's baseline goals were made, if I can do the math, what is that, 11 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
11 years ago. That's, that's a real big fucking deal when it comes to this game. And why, you have to have a certain frame of mind when talking about it, which is something that I've tried explaining to Koala before, was that, look, this ain't Eagle Dynamics, bro. They didn't go into thinking, fuel tanks, right? That's just not how it worked. So when it comes to discussing shit like this, that certain frame of mind, even if I trip up and I say really bombastic shit at times, there's a certain framework we have to work with here. And I don't care, again, one more time I'm going to say it. I don't care how many times players defend Gaijin or Gaijin tries to say it themselves. At some point, they're going to run into that issue if they haven't already. And I definitely think they've done it already. Not just with War Thunder's aircraft, but,
I mean, yeah.
So, scope creep and shit. That was
now.
Glad that
Maybe we should segue to possible Gen 4 aircraft instead of bitching and complaining like we normally do.
What? That's what? I'm laying the groundwork. That's okay. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
You forget about it.
Now we can go on to the fucking hype train as everyone else does. But yeah, now that we got the mechanics and shit out of the way, the actual possible aircraft, again, I don't think they're going to start doing this shit until probably mid. Would be obviously the F-14A. The F-15A, the F-16A, lots of A's, MiG-29A,
MiG-29A.
So, tornadoes. Did you guys actually see that thing? I don't remember where it was posted.
It was what about the fact that the tornado not being able to attain permissions for it is actually a false rumor.
Yeah, that was hearsay or something.
Stono or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we could tell you, but we can't.
I mean, the whole thing happened with the Mirage as well, and the Mirage came, 2 updates later, so it's obviously a lie.
They added the Draken. People were like, but the Draken. And they're like, but we can't add the Mirage, but the Draken.
but it's the same thing. Oh no. Yeah, so honestly, personal opinion, people are probably going to be rut-row raggy, funny Top Gun noises. But it's gonna be the Viper. That's the logical one, right? They will add the Tomcat. I don't put it past them adding it in March. Blah blah blah. Because the Top Gun movie. But the best segue into Gen 4 would just be the F-16 and the MiG-29. They're rather equal. They're built to fight each other, and they have not as much power creep as the other 2 planes.
What, the
Or
F-15
issues?
and the Tomcat? Yeah.
Yeah. or the MiG-31 25 not being able to turn, but you know.
That'd be really funny. Someone spawns at a MiG-25 and just the entire match they're just going bouncing off the map borders like Tom and Jerry episode, just bing bang, just all over the place.
Yeah, just going across the screen.
Yeah. The basic flanker would be coming in very late, I would assume, said Slavian. I mean, I would assume that.
The basic flanker, though, you got to remember has, you know, our data link, R27s, R73s. Like, at least the early MiG-29 didn't have R73s. Like,
Not this month or this year. They could wait till December. Did they kind of say that? I didn't actually finish reading the whole article. Did they kind of like say like not right now? I figured that was their thing anyways.
They just said it was
suicide.
coming this year.
they just said it was coming. Yeah, I had like a screenshot. I think Dogtor posted it, and it was like literally just, you know, yes, they're confirmed, and then that was it.
Oh, another complete sidebar is totally off topic. Osama said in chat, like why they didn't add heli PV. They're actually still working on it.
It's
They're
reportedly
working on
work in progress.
yeah, like I think it's actually only one guy that works on that too. I volunteered to help, which was me basically saying, "Give me a job at Gaijin." But anyways, need a full fucking time job, okay? I'm Steel X shill now. Steel shall come. Anyways, yeah,
Steel
like
shall come.
yeah. But yeah, the heli PV mode is definitely being worked on by like a singular guy, and is definitely probably at some point going to be an entire rework, because the way that Smin was framing it one time when we were asking about it, it does sound like it's going to be an entire rework for heli battles, because helicopters inherently should function much more in a combined arm state or in PvE if they're playing alone. So,
And I mean, it's not even a bad game mode, save the vehicles. So, aka the KA-50. I actually almost called it the PA-50, but
I mean,
that works either way.
Have you guys ever played Heliborn? How they do their PvE modes?
yeah.
Yeah.
I actually originally, when I first was, remember that Vietnam mission I made? Before that, I was actually trying to make something like Heliborn using the Afghanistan map, and then I just was like, how the hell am I going to get that to code? Because I did not know the CDK that well, but it is definitely possible.
Again, with the whole like comparison thing, but both War Thunder and DCS share the same problems with adding helicopters. Is everything in War Thunder is full scale, you know, platoons of tanks going at each other, you know, top of the line air support. Same with DCS, you know, it's like all SAMs, all, you know, MBTs and shit. And both the games, or simulators, whatever you want to call them, both of them struggle to implement helicopters purely just because of the fact that that's how the game was already set up. Like, you can't really, like, make War Thunder a heli game purely because there's no infantry.
I mean,
So
when I was playing Lock On as like a 10-year-old, the only thing I ever saw in helicopters was targets for missiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of helicopters isn't just ripple off 16 Hellfires, run away, rearm. Like, that's not even anywhere near the idea. You could say the Apache is, you know, built for anti-tank, but, like, what do you see it doing? Killing 15 T-72s? Like... It's literally a fire support role.
Even though that's like their original intention is.
That's
like,
what I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't work.
I need to get a drink of water real quick. I was trying to think of another topic to hop onto, but I'm sure you guys can probably figure that out yourself while I get water real quick. My throat is dry. Fucking hate winter. Trying to think. What else is there?
Capabilities of Gen 4 aircraft and what they would add besides
go into
missiles.
more potential aircraft, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
Tornado.
Chad F-15 and MiG-29. Full cum.
Full cum. MiG-29 full cum.
That's
full cum mode.
Because I love that my fucking MiG-29.
I mean, there's a lot of talk about HMDs because of the F4J. I mean, little do people know there's an HMD made in the 70s for the F4J, F15, F16, F18, F14, blah, 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 blah. It was only ever fielded on the F4J as it was seemed unnecessary on the other aircraft. Which, on the MiG-29 and the Su-27, they will also have a HMD, and people have been begging for HMDs, but unless it's like, you know, spool your missile and then slave it with your mouse, or like offhand free look, there's not really a way to implement that.
If it would be a free look because of how it's designed for, because like your head, but it would more than likely just be your map.
That was it. Yeah,
it's more than likely going to be your mouse. How Gaijin does it.
Yeah, I totally forgot. That was one thing. I had like a whole discussion about this 2 days ago, so it's like not fresh in my mind. But yeah, HMDs, like Gaijin, knowing them, the way that they simplify mechanics and then they try to like actually tweak them out later, cough cough flares, is I mean, just imagine them like because what they would do is they would implement them and then they would forget something like gimbal limits, and then you'd be able to just turn your mouse around while flying with the WASD keys, like most long-time veteran players know. I'm pretty sure the default controls now use WASD as rudder and throttle, which is fucking stupid. But
that's weird.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I've heard people say that they have Q and E as throttle or WS as throttle.
Yeah, the one time they changed how their default controls worked from the old legacy ones, and like W and S were throttle and not pitch anymore, and then A and D were rudder. It was really stupid. But anyways, what I'm saying is like having an R73, because that would be more likely, because the R73 was definitely made before the AIM-9X. Right? I'm not wrong about that?
Yeah.
AIM-9X came out in like the 90s.
Okay.
Late 90s.
I figured. I just wanted to make sure because shit. But yeah, with the R73, like, think about it this way. I mean, R24Ts are already a fucking annoyance. Just imagine somebody being able to essentially free look behind them or use their mouse and keep flying using WASD, and they pop an R73 and it does a 360 in your face because Gaijin doesn't model something properly, right? Or even it wouldn't even be that drastic, like a fucking like a straight up 180. I said 360 the first time. I meant 180. But it's just like still like there's gonna be problems with HMD firing missiles that would really be exacerbated by third person. Obviously, if you've played DCS and you've used the HMD on the MiG-29A or the Su-27, Su-33, or the F-18, you know that like there's a certain point where you can't actually see with that HMD and you can't actually lock anything, obviously because the IR seeker can only see so far back, right? So that's another whole thing there. Would be that the HMD like missile locking would just be a bad idea, or it would be implemented pretty badly at first.
That's how I feel it's going to be.
I mean, you remember
HMDs are it's just a complex subject because there's so many factors that like it just wouldn't work.
You would lose every sort of actual importance of an HMD besides slaving missiles, because I mean, you wouldn't have your flight data running around because it's already on your screen. Like, it would really be only to guide like late 80s missiles and more.
But we're still stuck at the fucking J.
I remember seeing this one dude who was like new to the content creator program. I don't know what he actually makes content on, probably TikTok. But everyone always makes fun of the TikTok creators because it literally requires like zero fucking effort because TikTok is so easy to expand on. Anyways, shade aside, literally saying like he was asking for the MLD to get R73s right now because he thought the R60Ms were complete garbage, and I was like, seriously, bro? Like, they said that they didn't even want R60Ms on the MLD, on the MLD, the MLD, on the MLD because of how good it performs. I'm like, now you're like seriously expecting anyone to take you seriously when you're asking for R73s right now? Like, what kind of fucking crack is that?
I love me some Rizzo 11s.
Yeah, you're
Oh
cute.
no.
Can I get my
But,
P5Cs
Nah,
now?
they're fucking retarded. How fucking like a front aspect lock they can get.
yeah,
Yes.
it's just dumb.
They're a thing, Slavian.
Yes, TikTok creators are definitely a thing. They actually just increased the requirements because it's so easy. It's so easy to get into fucking TikTok.
It doesn't even
so
have to be War Thunder related too. Like in YouTube, you'd get recommended due to like watching DCS or watching World of Tanks.
Yeah.
And
You have to
TikTok,
like already be interested in the subject.
yeah, in TikTok it just directs everybody. So like you get thousands of views, even if it's just some shitty thing. Like
Didn't War Thunder have HMGs for helis on the Mi-24V and H1Z? Yeah,
No.
in a way that was
yeah,
kind of a bug, but it didn't actually change. It only changed where the eye was looking. It didn't actually like affect the gimbal limit at all either.
also Gaijin adding AIM-9Ls in a 2000, what is it, 2003 helicopter before we had fucking AA and supersonics.
Yeah,
Like what the fuck?
that's completely fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, let's add a helicopter with radar guided air to ground missiles, all aspect air to air missiles. Oh my god, I'm not even gonna continue with that.
Sorry, my dad just texted me something about work. Apparently the airport
I'm
road is
telling you,
closed
Gio.
'cause- Yeah, it's closed due to flooding, but it's like raining. It's not. They're not even spraying. I don't think. So. Sorry, I just got distracted there. But yeah,
Fucking
that whole
Beal.
thing. What was the other thing with that I was thinking of with the
I don't know.
HMDs? Shit. Train of
What
thought
was it?
loss.
I don't know what.
I
What were you
don't
thinking?
know. What was it? Yeah. I remember now. So obviously our 73s were made before AIM-9Xs. So, this is another thing. NATO is still going to be running around, even if they do get all spec IR missiles. They're still going to be running around mainly with their BVR stuff being Fox ones. But if you've ever had to contend against an R27 ET in DCS. Knowing how that thing is modeled in DCS, I would not be surprised, considering the R24T right now, that Gaijin would implement an R27 ET, and it would literally mop the floor with NATO. I mean, I know we have the spotting system with missiles and blah 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 and all that shit, but I've already been able to kill people in BVR with the R24T, something that has like even better lock and flight range than that being like the standard issue that people are going to take when they upgrade their jets is pretty retarded. Okay.
It's also like an issue because Gaijin has to add things that are considered worse to their real time counterparts, like a MiG-21 versus an F4E. Like a MiG-21 SMT versus an F4E is not equal really, especially considering it was a 70s F4E at that point. So like an MLD versus an F-14A would not be considered really equal. So when they add, a MiG-29A with R-27 ETs or ERs, and our F-16s only have 9Ls and no Sparrows or AMRAAMs because it's gonna be kind of goof because Gaijin has to artificially nerf NATO countries due to the fact that Russia is just historically shit at making planes.
Amen, comrade.
Well, do you think that at that point they would
Uh,
combine the F-16?
Combined.
I don't know. I think the Russians are really good at manufacturing really good potent IR missiles, while NATO, mainly US, is really good at like BVR combat. Is definitely what I've noticed.
That's kind of what I'm going at. Is it's
Yeah,
like
the
we're
Russians are really
probably-
good in the dogfight, but at the first like initial like shot of like your Arkin, you're gonna fucking you're gonna get slammed dick
But the way
on
that
by
War
a couple
Thunder
120s.
functions, but I'm just saying the way that War Thunder functions right now, and even if we were to get to that point, I mean, we're talking about NATO planes pinging the RWRs of Russian planes, and they know that they're going to be getting fired at with Fox 1s versus you just flying along and getting sniped by an ET because
Yeah.
they're using IRST. It's two completely different.
And
lock.
No,
it would
I'm
kind
just
of
saying-
balance each other out because you still have the ability to, like, at greater distances, just to fucking kill each other. It's like,
Yeah, and
One
I'm talking
requires, like-
about. Sorry.
what? Now you go.
No, you're doing your Yeah, just go.
I actually think Creamy was
fuck.
probably. Were you
I
done with
forgot,
that
okay.
statement, Creamy, or not?
I forgot.
I forgot.
He made me
Um,
forgot. I need Doctor right here. Doctor helps me on forgot.
But what I'm not trying to talk about like legitimate just one-to-one missile mechanics. I'm talking about just in general, like you're rolling around. It's already present in game. You're rolling around in like a kind of not maybe top of the line fighter for the 70s, because like F4J is more of a backbone than a frontline sort of thing. But
Yeah.
you're running around in a early 70s F4J. Meanwhile, Russia has a mid-80s MLD with mid-80s missiles.
I would
And
definitely.
I'm not necessarily complaining about this because it's kind of a requirement, but it's going to be the same way with later aircraft. You have America running around in Hornets with MH Sparrows and no AMRAAMs, and you'll have Russia running around in MiG-20 or MiG-31s and Su-27s with R-73s and ERs and all that, just because they kind of have to be carried along with that.
What exactly defines fourth generation aircraft anyway?
It's
Multi-role and
It's different criteria. Let me actually, because like for fifth gen, it's like you gotta have like special LO. Like
Yeah.
that's how
pretty
like the
sure-
Air Force designates.
I'm pretty sure, didn't Koala say in his video talking about Gen 4 aircraft that the universally somewhat agreed term is an aircraft designed with both advanced maneuvering and advanced combat in mind, or something to that effect? Because like the main
Yeah.
difference between Gen 4 and Gen 3 aircraft is like a lot of Gen 3 aircraft are designed for either dogfighting or intercepting or ground strike, but Gen 4 aircraft can be designed for advanced like
Anything.
long range combat and not just be bricks. Like they have the ability to dogfight or they have the ability to be multi-role. It was something to that effect. But yeah, like if you think about it, like obviously like the F3D or no, F7U Cutlass is an interceptor, not a dogfighter, but the F-18 is a multi-role aircraft, that kind of thing. That's a pretty extreme example, but you kind of get the premise. Like the Navy was at one point in time. Yeah, like at one point in time, the Navy was designing straight up interceptors and straight up ground attack aircraft or bombers or whatever. And then like at some point in time, they were like, we can just do that with the technology we have now, all on one plane, and give it the performance to be able to defend itself. So that's.
I think fourth gen is like more digital interface stuff, like your AESAs. Most fourth gens have those. They have like joint attack and like joint abilities for like air interdiction, caps, whatever. They're just pretty much more modern with like more digitally modern equipment, like fly by wire stuff along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Heatseeker just sent me something. Generation Carter jets. What does that even mean? 1943 to 1950, high subsonic conventional armament. Then 53 to 55, transonic, air-to-air missiles, early radar, early supersonic radar, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's just generations, but that's not... Oh, wait, no, I see it. Wait, what? No, that doesn't make any sense. Gen 6. That's not...
What?
It's some weird picture he sent me. I'll just post it in general VC and Discord so you can see what I'm talking about. That's not really what I was thinking.
Is it talking about like generation of missiles?
Just look at
No.
VC and Discord.
It's like a Wikipedia thing.
It's like a weird little Wikipedia thing, yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean, that's. I mean,
It's more of
accurate, but
aircraft
it's not necessarily-
classification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was what I was gonna say. In 1990, they were considering the Mirage 2000 a Gen 6. Okay. Yeah, that's
yeah,
a stupid
fucking
That's
hilarious.
just those aircraft's purpose.
No,
Pretty much.
that
No.
the the things on the top right there, those are some citations from magazines and such that call it, those types of generations. Like the People's Liberation Army
That's
says,
literally China.
yeah, China, I know. But then there's like Air Power Development Center, Air Force Magazine, Aerospace Web. But I mean, China is a media entity. So you can't really say that's literally China because most things are literally China, even if it has a different name. But yeah, that's kind of what I think he's going at here. Is everything kind of has a different term depending on
In a
what
way, actually,
exactly
this
you're
kind
looking at.
of describes what I was talking about. Actually, with like you can kind of see like every 5 to 10 years, essentially, was a completely different improvement in air combat, and
Yeah,
you kind of see this in War Thunder right now with obviously you've got right here you've got the MiG-19 and all that stuff, and it's like I mean they can kind of contend with like actually I don't see where the hell is the MiG-21 on here. Whatever. You get my point, though. It's like, obviously, in War Thunder, you can fly an F-86, a MiG-15, a Mystere 4, a Hunter, and face a MiG-21 PFM, and he can completely shit on you with performance. Just straight up performance. Right? Even if his missiles are garbage. So,
All right,
yeah.
here. This is what the Air Force magazine says, which is literally just the fucking Air Force PA.
Yeah, viewpoints for generations. Well, that's like that's not actual classification. That's just magazine opinion.
No, that's like the common like guidelines for it. Like obviously, like,
I see what you're talking about now. No, I'm talking about what Heatseeker was telling me. Gen 1, this category comprised earliest jet fighters. Yeah, okay. Gen 4, Gen 5 is determined by stealth, all aspect stealth, internal carriage. Gen 4, these fighters debuted in the mid 1970s and are all still tops in most of the world. The group includes USAF F-15s, blah blah blah. And then there's obviously the Gen 4.5s, which are
your pluses, which are more. They're trying to become 5th gen, but they're just restricted due to like they don't have that LO capability
and all that. Yeah. Side note: how old is this? Because it says there is only one member, the F-22.
It's
the F-35 Lightning
it's like
2
from
will
like
join
08.
the club. Oh
so
no!
it's hella old, but like that's like the common guideline for the Air Force.
Yeah, that's what normally people talk about too. So.
Well, I mean, in a way, I mean, can you really call like the MiG-35? Well, it says that is a Gen 4.5, but
yeah, it's literally just a 29.
They're upgrades. They're modern upgrades
up to date
systems. Yeah.
Digital equipment.
I mean, have you seen the SU-30? It's the SU-33, but
yeah. I mean, if you want it, the only thing is like I've only noticed this like you can't really stealthify some of the Gen 4s, but I would definitely say that obviously things like it being a redesign kind of constituted being a Gen 5 aircraft as well, like something completely new as well. Like you can't.
No,
I mean, even if you stealth code a Tomcat, is that really a Gen 5 aircraft?
It's not. It's literally it has to be like for it to qualify as Gen 5. From what one of my patches told me, it has to be LO, like an LO platform.
What does LO mean?
Yeah, low observability.
Oh,
it's just like the B2. That's LO.
Yeah. Well, Valhalla actually posted something else like Gen 4 classification would also be considered like fly-by-wire supercruise, thrust vectoring, ASA radar, blah 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 stuff like that.
Technically, the Rafale would be Gen 5 as well because it's got low IR observability.
That's different. It has to be specifically like radar. Radar is literally the number one thing out there for like everything. IR is kind of relevant unless it's like you're the Russians and Chinese with your Erstis.
Erstis.
That's what we call them. That's literally what we call them.
IRST?
Erstis. Yeah, Erstis.
So bad.
Dude, the U.S. military, they got to acronym everything, man.
Yeah, we have like AISA, PISA.
Jesus Christ.
Pizza?
Yeah,
PISA.
For passive,
you have Little Caesars as an acronym? Pizza?
Is it the 25 or the 31?
PISA.
I know.
Yeah.
Is it the 25 or the 31 that has PISA?
For what?
The radar. The
What do you mean?
25 and 31, one of them has a specific radar. That's PISA.
When people said the Lightning was the same or slash better performance as the F-15, yeah. Pepper Ridge
Yeah, shut the
Farm
fuck up.
remembers.
Yeah, you're funny.
Pepper Ridge Farm remembers. Oh man.
Where's my B-52?
Never.
Should we even go into that?
And we
I
can.
love the B-52.
Honestly,
It's almost as if I work with the B-52.
I mean,
it's
we get like
almost
the
as if
B-52s with
almost.
like the fucking coax with the like the miniguns on the
The
back.
turret.
You mean
Yeah,
the
they had
quad?
a turret on it.
The
Like
quad,
the
M3
early,
Brownings?
early variants, yeah.
Bro,
had
no matter
turrets.
which way you slice it, those things are RP pinatas. They will
Yeah.
forever be RP.
But you have the
Yeah.
possibility of shooting missiles now.
But they're cool as
But-
fuck.
But 1,000 chaff and flare though. Chaff.
Nah,
flare,
actually, we
chaff, flare.
Oh, our flares got removed.
Well, there is
Yeah,
a what do you call it? TU-16.
Our flares were actually hand cranked, and they were single launch. You had to press a
oh
button
no.
and had to wait for it to like reset to launch another flare. That's how
Yes.
fucking old this piece of shit is.
Yeah, no shit. Oh fuck, what was I about to say? Oh yeah,
TU-16
there was is it a TU-16? Is that what that
The
model was?
backfire?
That
in
munitions flew?
DCS.
No.
Oh.
There's a model that munitions had
Oh.
in a video recently.
TU-22. Pretty sure.
Was that a
it
TU-22? It's got some
I'm
weird
pretty sure he
funky,
was.
like, engine placement.
The TU-22 has two different like generations. The M is like completely different. It's got the same style, but it's a lot more blocky and more conventional.
It's
The
literally
TU
just imagine like a B1, but since the B1's a supersonic swing wing, imagine that, but it's like it looks like a fucking big MiG, with like classic MiG 31 like intakes and shit.
Yeah, for the
It's
it's
literally just a B1, but Russian.
But the older versions, I'm trying to grab a picture in general VC. Hold on. The older versions looked like
Honestly,
that.
even if they were just AI, that would be.
And then these are the newer ones. These are the M3s and M's and all that.
Slavian just said, like, even if we just had like AIs, like even if they're AIs, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I think players controlling them would probably just make for negative
come.
bank accounts and RP pinatas.
I don't care. Hold on. All right, I got dip.
Oh, Creamy's got a dip for a bit. Sag.
Look at this after.
Oh, am I stuck on the island? The fuck?
Let me see.
No battle comes. No battle comes.
Yeah, that one, the one with where the engines are like up
On
by
the top.
vertical. Yeah,
It's a TU-22. It's just the
Really?
like earlier versions.
that looks so weird. That's so weird.
Yeah, they like redesigned it in the late 90s.
I kind of wish Creamy were
area.
still here because the last thing I
It has a turret.
Where?
The
Oh,
M,
I see.
The
Yeah,
M
yeah.
has a turret in the last one.
Yep, I see that. Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing saying that we can't get bombers like the Su-24 and the
I think things like the Su-24 and the
F-111.
F-111 would be somewhat more viable than something like the Stratofortress. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we know that the Su-24 can even mount air-to-air missiles. I don't know about the Aardvark. Depends on the
Yeah, it can.
version.
It can mount
they would
nine
they would have more utility than a B-52 or a fucking any sort of Tu-22 or Tu-95 would have. Those
Even
are
the Tu-22 could work because it's effectively just a Yak-28 in the play style and ideology of it. Just bigger and faster. Or not faster, but bigger.
Let's see. I guess the last thing that I can think of really to talk about today, there's definitely going to be more eventually, would be
Probably.
ground attackers, obviously. Where's that league list? I haven't even looked at it at all this stream. I'm
It was a
surprised.
joke. It was a complete
No,
joke.
I know there's the kill yourself one, the War Thunder update. I'm gonna kill myself, and then there's the other one. Yeah, I want to kill myself.
The Star of David one that I
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah, was that one a joke too?
Probably. It was basically only Israeli tanks. It was quite literally only Israeli tanks.
Yeah.
And then air was F-14A, YA-9, A-10, SU-25, MiG-23, MLA for Germany. The AMX International, the Kawas guy, T4, and the NAT. Oh no.
Yeah, that's
and then the
pretty
C was HMS Hood.
Yeah, that was
for
stupid.
naval.
Obviously,
That was
I
a
mean.
terrible list leak. But
Yeah. So, anyways, the last thing I could really think
oh, there's
of
another one.
is
Oh, Slavian's posting a new one. I've never seen this one.
really. Wait, hold on. That
Not
must
even
be
gonna
some.
lie, I could see like half of these vehicles, but
Yeah.
again, it's just like throwing things at a wall and assuming that they're coming because of, of course Israel's gonna get all the Merkavas and some of the Mergaks and some of the shot
The only
cows
thing
and
I see there
M113
believable would
stuff.
be an A4M for America, the MiG-23 MLA as the entry because they did that shit with the Phantoms, and then the Kafir. Everything else I don't see.
Well, why do we have a Kafir C7 when a Kafir C7 is basically like, I don't know, it's one of the later versions, and we have nothing that's late about it on it, really.
Yeah,
Like,
that was another pretty dumb thing is that it's like, oh, Kafir, oh, this thing's gonna be a good fighter, and then it's like, oh, I can go fast and fire 4M9Gs, like, wow.
H56A adding a Cheyenne as a premium just because it's in files.
Yeah.
Oh no.
What else? So yeah, anyways, the air attackers, obviously. I think we've had this discussion multiple times. I don't know if I've ever actually like documented it on YouTube though.
Not the YouTube.
Not that I don't think, yeah. With the A10 and the SU-25, I think that they're both gonna be in the game at some point. I think that they both will have a place in the game. But again, that depends on what I said really early in the stream about the terrain rendering. I mean, essentially, you're at a disadvantage when a SAM can basically be in the open shooting missiles at you and you can't see them because the ground won't render properly and you can't get a lock with a Maverick at that range. I don't understand how people have gotten walleye kills beyond like 10 miles because I never see anything render, especially that's moving.
Or can't
Beyond like,
lock,
yeah, beyond like 5 miles. So that's the biggest thing. Genuinely, in a perfect world, if this was like DCS, right? DCS ground terrain rendering, the A10 and the SU-25 would be fine. But at the moment, I don't see a reason for them to exist, or I shouldn't say that, to
It's
actually
not even...
behave properly in the game. So,
it's more like, so for the early Frogfoot, we're looking at like a MiG-27M, but slower, more armored, with Mi-24P gun and more ammo. That's quite literally what it is. It won't have like a Schwal sensor or TV guided missiles. It'll basically just be the missiles and everything that we have in the game plus bombs and.
You think they'd slap Bicker missiles on?
No, you can't. Only the
Only the T.
Yeah, because the T has the Schwal sensor. And,
do you think if they made do you think they would make the A and the for the S25 in both the A10 as well, the A10A as premiums?
No.
That would be kind of
because
if they did.
There effectively is no reason or way to add the C or the T for both respective planes into the game, because like if people don't know, the Schwal sensor is the camera on the Ka-50 that guides the Vickers. But there's be no point. It's like it's like not adding an F-15A or like a Tomcat A. People may not know about the variants because they're the older ones, but they were used almost the same amount of time. Like the A10 was made in the 70s.
I mean,
the C came out in the mid-late.
They're basically just avionics and weapon upgrades because of the avionics.
Pretty much.
So
I mean,
it would be kind of a stretch if Gaijin tried to sell the A of both planes as premiums. That would be kind of like, I see what you're doing there.
Well, like the F-14A, everybody's like, oh, that's gonna be a premium. Why should it? Other than the fact that Gaijin, AHA money and Top Gun releasing.
You'd essentially be buying
soon.
an F-14D.
You'd just be buying an F-14B with worse engines and not the same missiles. It has like zero functionality in game.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why they don't add a lot of mini variants of other things too. Is it's just there's
But
no
the
reason.
thing is the mini variant of the Tomcat in War Thunder would actually allow it to be added. You know, you could give it like AIM 9Hs instead of M's and L's, and
The
you
what
could then give
variant?
it H's. H's are just like improved J's.
Are you talking about what you said? A mini F-14? What are you talking about? Or did I just
Mini
mishear?
F-14.
Yeah. What did you just say? I totally
I'm
misheard
not
that.
even sure
Something.
if I said that.
Okay. Well, I definitely like misheard that. Never mind.
If I said that, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but
But like you could do it exactly the way the F4C is. The F4C can carry flares and AIM 9Js and AIM 7Es, but it's not in the game because it allows a mediation and a step up to the E. It's the same thing with the F14A. You don't have to add like super late sparrows and super late AIM 9s. You can add like AIM 9Hs and AIM
Yeah.
9Ls and AIM 7Fs
also
and
chat said that
E4s,
you
and
said
then
mini variant. That's what you said. Mini variant. That's what I heard.
oh,
I didn't know what you meant by
okay,
that, but yeah.
yeah, I don't know what I meant either. But yeah, you can add the worst stuff, and that's why those planes should be added in the game, because you add the worst missiles that don't start power creeps. Because like with E4s and AIM 7Fs and then like AIM 9Hs and then AIM 9Ls, the F4J and the E should already have AIM 9Ls, right?
Yeah.
And then the AIM 9H is practically an AIM 9J. Like there's almost no difference. So it's like it's not that much of an issue until you start going into like where my Phoenix is and
Yeah, until we get into Fox 3s. I feel like you could have a
or
whole podcast on Fox 3s themselves, too. And that was actually what I was thinking going into this. I really didn't even want to talk about Fox 3s because, like I said, like Gen 4 aircraft started out pretty much with Fox 1s and Fox 2s in mind and advancements to those rather than just, haha, Phoenix go burr.
yeah, like
I really
the
don't think,
F-16 wasn't.
yeah, like I don't actually think, as much as I would love to see it as just an absolute meme, I actually don't think Phoenixes would even be good for the game in the next year, a year and a half. Considering Gaijin was so stubborn for such a long time to implement EC-sized maps into normal Araby rotation, I really don't think that they would be healthy for the game.
They might not even stay because people don't want them anymore.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I think people need to accept that what they were playing is not what they think they are going to be playing. So,
Yeah.
Like someday they'll add Fox 3s and people will have bitched about the big maps and then they'll be playing on fucking Malta. I always use Malta as the example because it is true. They'll be playing Malta with Fox 3s. They'll get zoomed at because some guy's going to spam ram in an F-16 with 6 of them. They're going to die and then they're going to be like, bruh, why don't we have big maps? And then Gaijin's going to be like, you told us to go fuck ourselves 4 years ago. What are you talking about? We're not going to add those again. Screw you. Buy our premium. That's the bottom line. That's what's gonna happen. Like I really hate sounding like this because it makes me sound like I try to be smarter than everybody else, which is not what I'm saying. But like in my observation of the pattern of the War Thunder community, and that's not the only community that does this, but there is like zero forethought from the wider community base, the wider vocal aspect of the community. There is no forethought. There's no, hey, if this happens, that will lead to X, or if this happens, that'll lead to Y. There's no forethought. There's no acceptance of mechanics. There's none of that. It's just like I remember when they added the tank corpses to ground. I was kind of just like, I really don't like this. I think it's actually pretty bad for gameplay because they really hadn't worked on the effects or whatnot, and I still stand by that statement at that time. But as they've improved like visual effects and obviously they've gotten smoke to move and shit like that, I really don't mind them. I think it's a bit insane when you're playing on a map like Normandy and then there's dead tank corpses everywhere on top of the ones that are already on the map. It's like if the battle's going to start in a pristine area and then end in a war, then make it look like that. Don't make it start out in a war-torn area and then have this new mechanic in. But
yeah, I've said that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like eventually I was like, you know what? Mike told me, he's like, you'll get used to it. And I did. Like, I was like, you know what? I accept it. Like, it is what it is. I don't like it. I still hate that it's a thing on very, very small maps where there's a lot of choke points. Because it's like, imagine like in World of Tanks, for example, when that shit happens, that's not very enjoyable when you're playing a match and everyone died at a fucking choke point. And then you got to drive halfway across the map for an objective because someone's capping the point, shit like that. That was never really enjoyable and want for me. So, but when it comes to RRB and stuff, like, people are just gonna have to accept that, like, they're playing with a generation of warfare that has range extended. Like, the range of combat for the entire 20th century, the range at which combat took place got longer and longer and longer. In World War One, trenches could have been like 200 meters apart, not even at times. They were so close to each other. That's 206 probably pretty damn close, but you get my point. Like, that's just how warfare evolves, and that's what people are experiencing. And I know I keep calling back to this, but people that think that they're going to be playing 2015 Krebs kill compilation type War Thunder, they're in for a fucking rude awakening if it's not happened already. Yeah. Also, I think I just heard Creamy come back. Creamy, is that you?
No, it might have been Hijacks.
Oh, no, it might have been Hijacks. Sag. Yeah, he's still. Yep, he's not Sag.
I mean,
about the A10. Totally went off topic of that, but there is literally nothing else to cover with that. I guess is that they're just.
I mean, there were some things that we didn't go over with the A10s and the Frogfoots, but there's not really anything else to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I could think of is that Sam's will obviously slap them out of the sky.
Oh,
but
speaking of that,
but it's just like, their standoff weapons, obviously, like I said earlier, they depend on the rendering range and stuff like that. For actual close air support, I feel like the A10 with a shit ton of rockets or bombs or something in the gun would be fun. Obviously, you're probably going to die. There's like a 99.9% chance that you're going to die.
I mean,
but
the Frogfoot can take Vickers.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I actually think the Frogfoot...
It's not going to be the late Frogfoot, though.
If they don't add the T, obviously. If they do...
What could they give it?
The A.
Just the A,
Frogfoot A.
I mean, you would just be carrying,
because
like,
you just be
carrying,
shit. Yeah, KH-29 Ls, KH-25 MLs, Ls.
They get the T?
No, because it's a
They can carry,
technically,
yeah. Thermal.
Yeah, you can carry the T. It's like an iffy thing because I've seen pictures of Frogfoot A's with TVs in the cockpit, because I'm pretty sure you can mount them and remove them. But it's like the MiG-27M where it's in the cockpit, but it has no use other than optical guided missiles. I don't know. It's possible, but I mean, the Frogfoot and the MiG-27 use the same guidance system. Like, it's the same IR system, or laser system, sorry, that's in the nose. And so it would basically just be a bigger MiG-27M. So, like, more ammo, more armor, and slower. But that's exactly what the role it would play in the game. It wouldn't even be like the A10, purely because of the fact that it has speed, and then it has, like, it doesn't have the same type of weaponry.
Yeah.
Because you can fire, laser guided missiles and all that, and loft them, and do all this and all that. Compared to Mavericks.
What are those missiles? Aren't they already in game, actually, on the Su-17 M2 or something? Remember the ones that they fire out of essentially like a rocket pod, but they're laser guided or TV guided or something? They're like a rocket. They're a guided rocket. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Yeah.
There's the S25L, which is it's a laser guided S25, and if you don't know what an S25 is, it's just a way better S24. But it's on the Su-22, and there's no L version. I think it's only the O and the OFM. The only difference between the two being one's frag and one's just blast, like concussive blast. So basically HE versus like shrapnel. But they're insanely good in the game. They have like 50 kilos of explosive mass, and they fly flatter than the S-24.
What about
I actually freaked out when I seen them on the SU-22, and I was surprised that nobody was talking about them. But then I
Yeah.
realized it's because you can only carry 4, and it's not like a mixed loadout. You can only carry those.
Yeah.
So
Slavian
it's
said,
like
what about the SU-34? I mean, SU-34 would just be a
it would just
faster.
be like it's like a late '90s fucking SU-24, but on a flanker airframe.
Yeah, pretty much. It's still.
I mean, it can carry R-77s and all R-73s and that. Like, it wouldn't be realistically in the game ever, honestly.
Because it could do too much, you're saying?
Basically, I mean, INS guided bombs, laser guided bombs, optical guided bombs, Fox 3s, air to ground, air to air radar, toilet. It's got a toilet in the cockpit.
That's hilarious. Because, I mean, it's a fat freaking plane, so. Big old plane.
Yeah.
The only other thing that just popped into my head would be tech tree placement. They really need to, like, work the tech trees
No.
out.
It's possible in Russia. It's just more
It's
of
like,
a.
I still don't
It's confusing, yeah.
personally understand how, like, is it like one nation it's based off of manufacturer, one nation it's based off of role.
I think the issue with because it's always based off of different things IRL anyway, right? But like I think the issue with Russia is the Yak-28's a bomber, but so is the IL-28. So why is the IL-28 in the attacker line?
Because it's
Or
in the Aleutian family. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any fucking sense putting things in the family, but then you're not. It's like Russia, it's all family based, and then America, it's like role based, because you have, and obviously at certain times, certain companies were picked up by others, so it changes, But it's like one line is oh fuck, who made the F5?
Northrop.
Northrop, yeah. So Northrop at the time, not Northrop Grumman yet, I don't remember. But it's like, you get the Phantoms in one line, the F5s in another, and then you've got the what do you call it?
A7 and then the I think
F8,
honestly,
yeah.
like I thought everybody thought the same with the MiG-27. Everybody thought it was gonna go below the IL-28s. And I mean, I see the Frogfoot going there, but I don't see it going underneath the Sukhois, like the SU-7 and that.
Are the SU-7s in a separate line to the?
The SU-7s are, if I can remember, they're in the LA line. No.
Yeah, they're after the LA.
Oh, they are. Okay. So, and it makes somewhat of sense because the SU-7s were designed as interceptors, and then forced into a strike role. Like, they were designed and then they were built, and like as soon as they were built, then they were made into bombers.
Yeah. I think at one point Smin had said the official statement from Geiger or something on the MiG-27 placement was like, its intended role is to drop guided munitions or some shit. It's something stupid. I might be totally misremembering that, and that might not even be true. But it was something weird. It was like the reason for it being there was because it can carry bombs or something, essentially. Something stupid like that. And it's like, but it's a fucking ground attacker. It's not a bomber.
Honestly, the SU-17 would have made more sense in that line than the MiG-27 because it's more of a, like, CAS plane, and there's two different things. There's battle interdiction and CAS, and battle interdiction is more like, I'm gonna carpet bomb something, which would be more of like an SU-17 role versus a MiG-27 because you can, precision guide weapons.
Yeah.
I think a real bummer about that though is just the fact that like it's gonna be a kind of mixed thing with Russia. Because, like, of course all the MiGs are going to go down the same line, but then what's going to happen with the Yak tree? And then, like, what's going to happen with the Frogfoot? And then...
Sukhois.
Yeah. But I honestly think everything's going to keep going the way it is, and the Frogfoot will go under the IL-28 with every MiGs going below the MiGs.
I'd like to see the IL-102 in the game.
I think my IL-40.
I think it'll be like an event vehicle.
Probably,
IL-40, really?
The
We
issue
got the
is that there's interceptors made by Sukhoi that haven't been added in the game. The real Su-9, not the one we have in the game, and then the
Yeah, the
Su-15.
real
They'll fit
SU-9
that
and
line.
SU-11.
They might honestly put the Sukhoi interceptors in the Yak line. I actually wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
Put
Like,
them
where's my Yak 40?
That's
I
kind
want
of
my Yak
honestly,
40.
funny thing. Although Armored Warfare's kind of like rolled back on this, but the thing in Armored Warfare with the dealers, I know it's dealers versus countries, but they placed things in a way where like if they couldn't really be placed anywhere, they were just placed behind like an amalgamation of things that were kind of like if you are looking for a different play style, you mix it up a little bit, or they just straight up were placed alone behind like a certain thing. And like it kind of was placed in a way where you would acknowledge it's not the same play style. Now I know that
Yeah.
that's Armored Warfare, obviously, but you get my point. Like, Gaijin is
Well,
super rigid about tech tree placement. That at
and then
times
there's the
they don't
issue
need to.
with Germany and Britain, or not Britain. Actually, yeah, Britain. There's the issue with Germany and Britain having all these like notches and stuff where you don't have to research the planes above it when either their planes are the exact same or it's like minor variations in playstyle and type. Like, or you go to America and the attacker line is Kingfisher, or not the attacker, but I guess it's the attacker line, the dive bomber attacker line. It's Kingfisher, Devastator. I think after that's the Dauntless, or whatever's before the Dauntless, and then the TBF. And all those should be connected with a line, but then it goes A20, A36, and then Helldiver, and then they're all still connected. Like those planes have nothing in common besides their role. And then you go A26, and then you go AD2, and it's like what? Because they're not even the same plane physically, or even the same role. Because the A26 is a bomber. It's like a Marauder, like. And then then you go the F3D, and then it goes to the F84F. Like none of those planes have really anything in common. So why are they all connected? Versus the 109 line where 3 109 groupings aren't connected to each other, or like the Spitfires where there's constant breaks and inputs in the tech trees. And in general, it just makes like America one of the hardest countries to grind.
I think they should honestly probably separate shit by role.
Yeah.
The thing is with like America, they have an entire aircraft line dedicated to naval aviation. Not many other countries had brand new designs for naval aviation, or they'd have like modifications and stuff. So I'm like America might be a rare case, but I honestly think that they should restructure the tech trees at like rank 6 and 7 and just kind of like basically be like, look, in order to make things make logical sense and like and have a better proper like grinding experience through the tree, like you might be locked off to some things. They've already done it a shit ton of times with me with like the fucking French tree and shit, locking shit. It's like it's just kind of like a thing that we're gonna have to accept again, just like restructuring shit just for the sake of it to make sense down the line later on,
Well, it's like the French tree, for example. We have the attacker line, but then like you made an entire line based off of American exports, and what American exports are going to go there now? Like that's just going to be a giant hole in the tech tree where everything on the left and right is going to be Mirage and like Super Etendard and
Do you
Mirage
think that like it would be
Barrage.
possible for Gaijin to implement into the tech trees a label for each line to describe
Probably.
them? Do you know that World of Warships does that? Obviously, it's like there's gimmicks
I mean,
and shit involved, but it's
if
like
they do that, then it's going to be kind of like super subjective, because a lot of the lines don't really have a proper structure. I gotta go though, so
yeah. The last
Maybe-
thing I guess I was gonna say before I wrap this up even was, and I'll answer a couple of questions. If you got to go, Coma, that's fine. Thanks for sticking around. See ya. I guess it's pretty much just me now. Hijacks, you've been kind of quiet, but that's fine. You've probably been playing this entire time, actually, but that's fine. Yeah,
I mean,
so go ahead, sorry, what?
I've been up since like fucking 3 in the morning, my guy, so tired as shit.
Yeah, I feel you. I really wish I didn't say yes to working tomorrow, but I mean, it's a packed schedule. Tomorrow's going to be a busy morning, and I definitely don't want to be there longer than 4 hours. So who knows?
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
What?
they really need to focus on the code more. You gotta start going from the ground up with the code. I think.
I honestly think the game is too far gone, and we can at this point only just kind of hype about certain things and then play them as like flavor in the month, and then the game just dies. Like I've actually like when I have had free time and I've been playing World of Warships, that game is full of complete idiots. I've actually been like enjoying myself more just playing it. Like I genuinely like I haven't made a video in essentially like a decent video in like 3 weeks. I've like uploaded some like shit here and there like basically every week, but it's like I don't have. There's such a content drought for me for War Thunder. It's like I don't really have a style or format that I really stuck to because everyone else was already doing it, which is why I wanted to do the podcast thing more. But it's such a long form thing, and just with my schedule, like just working in January was just so. I'm just dead inside, honestly, because of the amount of weather we got. Right.
Yeah.
It's just like if I make gameplay videos or I make something like Justin Plays makes really good vids. I love how his vid is styled out, but it's just effort and time I can't put forward. Considering I'm not. It doesn't seem like it to some people, but like I'm not established at all in War Thunder. I wouldn't really consider myself established. I never hit my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of last year. That just never happened. That was my goal, but that summer I just got so fucking wrecked with just the dumb shit in my family. Like again, like I said earlier, I have no privacy here. I don't really have the ability for shit like that. So, just unfortunately, I haven't been able to make the War Thunder content I want to, just because but when I do get spare time, I just want to sit back and relax. And I don't actually know if I'm going to be doing YouTube much longer. I said that once before, but like, I'm really feeling it now. Not to be like a Debbie Downer at the end of the fucking podcast, but it's just like I don't have the time to put forward to it. I love talking about shit like this though. Love having discussions about stuff like this. I don't really like even playing War Thunder that much anymore directly, just because like, not to toot my own horn, but like I'm pretty decent at War Thunder, and just like it's kind of the same thing with Warships. Well, actually not the same thing, but it's like in Warships it's the players that make you want to quit. In War Thunder it's the clunkiness. It's all the bugs. It's all of the poorly implemented mechanics. It's all the coding issues that result in shit just being so bad. You just get over it. Like War Thunder is an amazing looking game, and at one point used to be an amazing playing game. But it's just like talking about this shit is exciting, but it's just like deep down you know that they're gonna fuck it up somehow, or it's not gonna be as good as you want it to be. But it's like it's having discussions like this is still more enjoyable to me, and I feel like more entertaining. It's just like if I pumped out a podcast 2 or 3 times a week, would I be getting? I'm looking at my analytics. If the playbacks is correct, then this video only has 285 views, or the stream rather. But it's like, and that's a stream, right? But eventually people will watch it when it uploads to itself as a video, if people are willing to listen to it. I actually think the War Thunder community really could benefit from having a podcast, but it's all about if people actually want to deal with that or not. What is that? Oh, it's my
Monkey's
hat.
Paw video game.
I was playing under my desk with my hat with my toes. I'm like, what is that? That was a sound. But yeah, other than that rant, I guess for those of you still watching the Monkey's Paw video games, yeah, definitely. But yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I just remember coming home from high school, and the only thing I looked forward to was just playing War Thunder. But now it's just like the X you gotta stay away from.
Yeah, I'm growing up, bro. Like, okay, I'm just saying this out here. This is totally off topic. The last thing I wanted to do before I wrap this up was maybe a 15-minute Q&A with some of you guys to chat currently. Before this obviously gets uploaded straight up to YouTube. One thing I am not proud of, but I definitely just did because I got a fat paycheck, was I dropped $200 on loot crates and World of Warships for the firepower crates, and all I got out of it was a Maximalman. And that is the first time in a while I haven't been able to, like, stomach down a purchase online. Like, I swear to God, like, every time
I know where you're going with this.
I'm like, oh, I get something out, but it's like, this time I was like, fuck, that was such a waste of money. Like, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm starting to grow up, honestly. I'm starting to grow up, I'm starting to feel it. Like straight up, like I kind of fucked around with ECC last year. That was in a rush. I gotta get going, like going to like actual college proper. I am 4 years behind my dreams because I got caught up in this game. Like this weekend, I'm going to a club actually, which is gonna be pretty fucking lit. I hope, but
Yeah.
like I'm starting
Nice
to
to
feel
get
like,
out.
bro, like I don't come home and look forward to playing War Thunder. I come home and be like, man, I really wish I had a girlfriend right now to go hang out with.
Ogo,
Like,
Ogo, I'm going to ask you to put the fucking mouse down. Go step outside for like half hour.
spend $500 on War Thunder in one day. Yeah, not your proudest moment. Not your proudest fap either. Yeah. Oh, and this is the best thing. So hijacks. Okay, he opened up like 6 containers. He got a fucking Napoli and a Cobb roast. I already got Cobb and GK because if you guys have played World of Warships, you know that they got removed. And if you had them researched, you know whatever you'd get them. I was
I've
hoping for
opened-
Napoli. The amount of money I spent in the loot boxes hoping to get Napoli or like one of the other tier 10s in the firepower crates, I could have just bought the fucking Napoli.
I got 12. Okay, I got the Napoli in the first set and the Cabros in the other.
Okay, yeah, but I opened up what at the end, like 18. I opened
I
up
don't-
$200 worth. I should have just fucking just opened it up. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know. I was like, and then I kind of forgot. I was like, even if I did spend money on warships, it was going to be for gold for the dockyard because the Atlantica looked like a meme ship. But
Slavian, the only thing I'm expecting is for the fucking game to break itself. Sooner or later.
update in March, yeah, break itself.
It's
Yeah. I'm getting so sick of. I love the job that I'm working right now during the wintertime for the money, like full time and shit. Now that I got a promotion, but it's like fuck me, dude. Like it's wearing me out every year. It slowly starts wearing you out, and I got shit to do.
yeah.
It's 360. Yeesh, that's a lot of money. Yeah, I've spent a lot of money on my games. I mean, I looked at my bank account the other day. I could have had double what I have right now. If I didn't, I mean, I took out a lot of money and put it into stocks and shit. I invested some of my money, obviously. It would be stupid not to. But, like, the actual, like, money sitting in my bank account right now should be, like, definitely a different number than what it is. I'm not poor by no stretch of the imagination for my age, but, like, I definitely would need a better income right now and to save some of my money. I was hoping at some point, like, I know this is going to go on a little bit longer, but I was hoping at some point just to be able to be at like a certain subscriber base with YouTube where I could just make a video when I had the time, upload it, and get like a decent amount of ad revenue or like a sponsorship, and then kind of just have that as like a side hustle. But this just isn't working out anymore. I mean, like I said, I love still making content every now and then, but I just don't have the time. If I had the time or the sleep, I guess you could say, is definitely the other thing. If I had the cognitive function, it would be different. But I love doing these podcasts, but it's just, it's a struggle. Like a lot of you guys that watch videos and stuff, you don't understand. Like recently, I remember Ash he was dealing with some shit mentally, and he was kind of teed off that his video talking about his mental health issues got like 3 times the viewership of his actual War Thunder content. And that, let me tell you, that does not help you as a creator when you basically saying I have issues is getting more views than you trying to do the thing that is like trying to help you, fix those issues and to give you the confidence. Yeah. War Thunder is an addiction at this point. I still am going to cope and say that it's not. It's not an addiction. I've just conditioned myself that was like my social thing for a while. Because my real friends were always just, I mean, like, I kind of miss them at times, but they were always fucking assholes. They always wanted to hang out at midnight on school nights, and that just wasn't how I grew up, So, like, War Thunder was a good thing at one point, but I've definitely, it's definitely on the tail end. Being a streamer on, like, Twitch is also another thing. That's different, too, but, yeah. The actual podcast definitely ended, like, 20 minutes ago. Just talking now at this point. Investing in physical stuff. Yeah. I actually, what's funny? I have a picture of the Land O'Lakes butter before they removed the Indian lady off of it. And I'm like, I joke that I could sell that as an NFT, but like if I actually figure out how to sell NFTs, I will definitely make that an NFT. And I guarantee you I would make a shit ton of money off of it. Because it's just, NFTs are just such a fucking joke. And then everyone selling them is like an actual scumbag. Like I swear to God, like you gotta be on some level of scumbaggery or doing some illegal shit to be pro NFT. because that shit's just stupid. I don't care how much people think that virtual reality is going to sell at some point. That NFTs are such a scam. They're just stupid. You got to hire people to get you into their YouTube recommendation system. Well, like I recently got a shout out from Ash, which is great, and I'm appreciative of it. But he shouted me out when like I'm working like 60 hours a week on a shitty schedule, like working at noon and then getting out till whatever fucking time. And a lot of the times in January, I wasn't getting out till midnight. I was working like 12-hour shifts every day. And then even some of my days off where I was getting called in. So, also slow mode is painful. I don't even know if I actually turned slow mode on. I don't know if that was something I did or it's just YouTube stream, but it helps with the spam. Probably because of the robot things. But yeah, I should probably wrap this up. I'll answer like 3 more questions. So if you guys have any questions, throw them in chat right now. Some opinions and stuff like that, and then I'll answer them. They don't even have to be Gen 4 related at this point, but yeah. I'll answer like 3 or 4 or 5 more questions, and then we'll wrap this up here because I got to get to bed soon. I got to fucking work in the morning. It's killing me. Absolutely killing me. I feel like from your perspective, the YouTube grind is a back and forth battle. Like, I'm sorry, but majority of the players aren't watching War Thunder content until an update. Yeah, you know, that's unfortunately, like, kind of built my channel in a way, like, not I did, but you kind of have to, generally, for War Thunder, have to build off of update hype, which actually kind of feeds the cycle of some of the problems in War Thunder, which I kind of hate. TikTok is fucking cancer. I don't actually know if I'm allowed to say the requirements, but all I can say is that like it's like tenfold of YouTube's requirements because of how easy it is. Like 10,000 subscribers on YouTube versus 10,000 followers or on TikTok, or like 10,000 or like 100,000 average views or whatever is like ridiculous. So, how will they monkey's paw the F-14? Fucking with its performance probably, or just keeping radar simplified bullshit, or RWRs not working as they should. If we don't get actual proper RWR functionality for the aircraft that have missile launch warnings, then War Thunder's Gen 4 jets are really gonna honestly just be kind of, it's gonna be the same old.
They just add it with like no missiles whatsoever, and the only thing you get is the gun.
Yeah. Do I actually think the F-14 will come this year too? Probably, yeah. Probably at like the very end of the year. I genuinely don't. I genuinely don't see why they wouldn't, considering that they added the MLD in way too early. The MLD's flight performance is just vastly superior to pretty much everything else in the game, other than the Viggen. I would say that they're about even. And the R-24Ts make the MLD... They only enhance the capabilities of the MLD. I wouldn't say they make the MLD, but they sure as shit, you know, enhance the abilities that it already has. And an F-4 Phantom, I've never been in a position at altitude where I just pointed my nose down and dived away and dove away from something. You know, I was always flying a bus, you know. Where was the other question? Researching first jet ME-262, any tips? I very limited play the ME-262, but it's pretty universal that the ME-262 just, you have to keep your speed up. I don't know what it faces now anymore. I have no idea the matchmaker of the ME-262, so it might just kind of be an aircraft you'll just have to skip over if you're facing shit that just is vastly superior to you. And the 262 like will only be good when it's spaded. A stock like my A1A whatever the first ME-262 numbers are is virtually stock, and it's pretty struggling to play.
Mostly we'd be facing like F-80s.
Yeah, as long as you keep your speed up, you should be good. The guns are what's gonna hold you back. You're a plane meant to intercept bombers fighting jet flyers from the early Korea era, so
Don't turn fight. Just
Yeah,
never
don't
turn
turn
fight
fight.
in a 262.
F-14A equivalent for other tech trees. Well, in terms of swing wing design, the MLD is there. That's literally it. Um, in terms of like design philosophy with the swing wing shit, that's all I can think of, honestly. Trying to think. In terms of combat capability, the MiG-29A, not D, not or sorry, not A, S. The MiG-29S, because it's got, I think it has a better engine and like better avionics. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. The thing, this is what we were talking about earlier. My biggest thing with War Thunder that I've experienced in DCS, which is a simulator, and will only be exacerbated in War Thunder because of the simplifications of things, is Russian planes running around with medium to like medium longer range thermal, or sorry, IR guided missiles. I think of the T as thermal. That's stupid. But essentially Russians running around with R-27 ETs firing at jets that are firing Fox 1s at them, or early Fox 3s, which that would probably make them more on par, but I'm just, the way that Gaijin has done it, considering they've added the MLD in an era where it probably shouldn't have been added yet. Not saying that the MLD should have been added at a point where it would be dead on arrival, but the MLD just, again, is so superior to so many jets in the game. Like, like genuinely consider this, like having R-73s and having R-27Ts or ETs, and then just being killed in an F-15 while you were locking in with your radar firing a Sparrow. You know, it's like, it's not happening. It's not going to be fair. The gap is the infrared. So for equivalents of the F-14A, they will all have their different strengths and weaknesses, but I think that the Russians, if you think about them using ETs or even just the normal T, because I think the E is just extended range basically, if what Gobnik told me is what I remember him telling me is correct. So yeah, you essentially will be dealing with one side using Fox 1s and radars and the other side knowing when they're getting shot at versus the other side not and just having to anticipate it, or banking on the War Thunder spotting system of missiles. I don't remember how long the burn time is of the R-27 either, but if my memory serves me correct, it's not long. It's not like an AIM-7F. You know,
I think it's somewhere just a little longer than an AIM-9D, maybe around the same time.
Yeah, but it gets up to such a high speed on top of it if you're launching it at a high speed, you know. The range that you're getting on that missile is insane. Anything else I can think of would probably be the Tornadoes as well, because they're swing wing, variable sweep wing, whatever the word is. Tornadoes, that was one thing I forgot to touch on with the other guys, as I think someone said it in chat earlier in the stream though, is that the Tornado is essentially the next step for Italy, Britain, and is there another country I'm thinking of I'm missing the Tornado from? Germany.
Well, not the ASA?
The ASA as well, but that's still just a starfighter. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that's just an F-104. It's not really a new generation aircraft. It's just going to be a meme vehicle. Like the F-104S, when they added it, was just like, hey, I can launch a lot of AIM-9Bs and maybe I'll get a hit. And then I feel like with the ASA, it would be, hey, I have a lot of AIM-9Ls. That's about it. I don't know the AIM-9L's flare resistance, but because I don't have the Viper on hand to test with. I've played it with a test drive, but other than that, yeah, I've never actually done a thorough test with the AIM-9L, and that's being fired from a stationary position too. There's a big difference there versus being on an aircraft. So I really don't think anything other than the Tornado, the MiG-29S. I don't think that they should add the Sukhoi 27. I don't think that they should be using the Su-27 yet at all. The Su-27 carries just a ridiculous amount of missiles, more than the Tomcat. I'm trying to think. In total, you can carry, what are there, 6 small hard points. Then there's 2 medium-sized hard points on the wings. Then there's 2 like on the engine, like structures, essentially, whatever that part of the word is. And then you can get 2 in the middle, in between the engines. You know, that's like 10 missiles, right? if I'm thinking properly. Let me Google it. Su-27 missile hard points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 missiles. Yeah, I was correct. 10 missiles. That photo is an Su-33. That's a bit dodgy of a photo. That has 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. It's on the... Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a little... having like
The
3 or 4 of
missile
those.
count, yeah, the missile count is what makes this plane ridiculous. Super maneuverability. The speed is also pretty good. I don't really like talking about Russian aircraft though, because my knowledge, my like opinions are forming off of DCS in a way. Which I know sounds like it's kind of like a discredit almost to my own opinions, but it's like I'm going off of companies that are making aircraft that are getting real information and trying to model them as accurately as possible, and then using them in a situation as accurately as possible, and then forming my opinion on that. And because Russia doesn't like an American companies obviously making a simulation game that would essentially train people to attack their aircraft and find their weaknesses, you know, not wanting to model them super realistically. That's why I don't really like talking about the Sukhois. But I mean, I know the F-15 can carry a shit ton of missiles as well. I mean, you can carry what, 4 AIM-9s and 4 AMRAAMs?
So the
6 AMRAAMs?
F-15, you can take about 4 on the 2 on each side of the engine, and I believe another 4 on the wings, each wing.
The Strike Eagle carries like twice the load. Let me see. F-15C.
Yeah,
Hard points.
I'm thinking of the E.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm seeing in this photo 4 AIM-9s and 4 AMRAAMs. So 8. The Sukhoi would get basically a 2 missile plus advantage. Or if you consider, actually no, sorry, I forgot those fuel pods. They don't interact with the AIM-9s.
AIM-120s go burr.
So yeah, yep, that's an F-15E. That's it. Then there's the advanced F-15.
You just want to spam 15?
Yep. Yeah, I think the F-15 would come around the same time as the Sukhoi 27. To be completely honest with you, in terms of, I mean, if they added the F-15 and like were somewhat accurate to like what it was fighting at the time, I mean, the kill ratio would be fucking ridiculous.
You know, if there's one thing I'm looking forward to this year from Gaijin, it's the April Fool's event. That's about it.
Yeah, that's true too. The April Fool's event will definitely show us some things that they have planned. Even if they are years down. That's another thing too. Like, Gaijin plans things years down the line, and they don't tell us about them because they don't want to commit to them. Because some of it's experimentation. The F-15A and F-15C difference? I think just performance and avionics. So,
You know,
the F-15A, in a perfect world, the F-15A would be stuck with Fox 1s and, like, maybe AIM-9Ls. You know, and that, like, as its max loadout. It's the performance that you would be getting out of the F-15A.
fuck is going on here? What?
I think it's going to be those walkers. Well, yeah, it could be those, too. But, yeah. There's really nothing else I can think of. I don't really know if they're going to do the Tomcat with the Top Gun movie drop. I think that that's just kind of like a coincidence, to be honest with you. They could be a pretty good marketing thing to basically bank on that movie, but, you know. I mean, if that movie would have came out when it was supposed to, in what was it, 2019, 2020, and they tried adding a Tomcat in, that would have just been terrible for the game. But good for sales, terrible for the game. So, who knows, honestly. But, yeah. that's pretty much it for me and everyone else that was here. They've eventually left. It is late. I'm sorry I had to stream this so late, guys. It's just time zones, and then, like I said earlier, like just with my family, just being able to just sit down and talk without distractions. It's very rare nowadays. Sometimes when I'm playing with you guys, hijacks, I don't think you notice. To be honest, it's like how many times I really do get ripped away from games. So it might seem like I'm there for like a whole day, but at times it's like, no, it's, you know. But yeah, so I'm glad I finally got to stream and talk with everyone, though. I've been itching to do this. I actually wanted to stream last week, but that just didn't happen. So yeah, for everyone sticking around, still thanks. For everyone that watches and posts, thanks as well for actually making it this long if you do. For all of you guys, I should have had in the YouTube stream description the Discord link for those of you that aren't on the Discord already. Come join and hang out and talk further about some of the stuff if you guys want to. Obviously, never hurts to drop a like on the streams as well. Kind of probably helps boost the numbers when people want to watch and talk about this stuff, because it's all nice and dandy when you get like something like Koala where they're talking about information and stuff and you can debate in the comments, but sometimes I think live chat is very enjoyable as well. So good night, everyone. I will see you guys all later. I am going to go to fucking bed now. I am wrecked. So see you guys later.